Right, this is the easiest subject, by the way. Easiest subject to pass also. Theory subject. Pass the exam. Passing the exam is one thing, understanding the subject is another thing. So there are plenty of students who pass the subject, but they haven't understood the concepts. So that is one of the issue with our education system. That is why private sector always interview. Remember, I don't care whether you learn programming or not, whether you know how to develop software or not. Why? Can someone tell me why? ඕගොල්ලන්ට software එක develop කරන්න පුළුවන් වුණාද නැද්ද කියන එක මට අදාළ නැහැ. Why? Can someone tell me why? Anyone? මට ඕන එහෙම හැසිරෙන්න පුළුවන්. Because after 3 years, right? I am not with you. I am not going to hire you. මම ඔයගොල්ලන් ජොබ් එකකට ගන්නෑ. දැන් ජොබ් එකකට ගියාම මොකද වෙන්නේ? දැන් මම ඉන්නවා කම්පැනි එකේ software engineer කෙනෙක් විදියට. නැත්නම් මම තමයි ඒකේ tech lead, project manager, architect. දැන් මම එනවා ඔයාව ඉන්ටර්වියු කරන්න. දැන් මම ඔයාව ඉන්ටර්වියු කරන්න එනකොට මගේ mentality එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් වෙනස්. හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. right? ඒක අපි කියන ඉන්ටර්වියු තමයි එලකිරි. ඉන්ටර්වියු තමයි genuine. exams කියන්නේ fake. right? exams කියන්නේ fake. දැන් මොකද කරන්නේ? එක්සැමිනර්ට බලපෑමක් නැහැ ඔය එක්සෑම් එකෙන් පාස් වුණත් නැතත්. ඔයා බොරු කරලා පාස් වුණත් එක්සැමිනර්ට බලපෑමක් නැහැ. මොකද එක්සැමිනර් එක වැඩේ කරනවා ලෙක්චරර්. But if I am the project manager, if I am the architect, now I come for the interview because I am going to recruit for my team. හොඳට කල්පනා කරන්න මේක. So I am going to recruit an engineer for my team, my new project. And then I need to work with you guys. Say I have already 3 members. Senior people, I have worked with them. I'm comfortable with them. I know their competencies. But I need maybe 2 more people for my project because my project need 5 engineers. Otherwise, we can't finish it fast. So now I'm going to hire another 2 people. So then, say I'm the architect. So I will be definitely come to the interview. My project manager will come to interview. Maybe another senior engineer will come to the interview. ඔන්න අපි තුන් දෙනා තමයි ඉන්ටර්වියු එකට එන්නේ. ඇයි ඒ? අපි තුන් දෙනාට මේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක කරන්න බෑ. අපි තුන් දෙනාගේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් මැනේජර්යි මායි තව ඉංජිනේර්ස්ලා තුන් දෙනෙකු ඉන්නවා. හැබැයි අපිට තව දෙන්නෙක් ඕන. මේක එක්සෑම් එකක් දීලා ඔයාලට සර්ටිෆිකේට් එකක් ඉෂුව කරනවා නෙමෙයි. This is serious commitment. So that is where we are very serious in the interview. So we check whether can you do things. Can you come and fit into our working environment and do involved in our task. Otherwise, what happens? So this organization, this is a business organization. We have budget. අපිට allocate කරලා තියෙන ප්‍රමාණයක් තියෙනවා. මුදල් අපේ hire management එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒ hire management එක කියලා තියෙන මේක මාස 5න් ඉවර කරන්න ඕනේ. අපිට customer ගෙන් මෙච්චරයි සල්ලි හම්බ වෙන්නේ. ඕගොල්ලෝ මෙච්චර budget එකකින් මේක ඉවර කරන්න ඕනේ. දැන් ඔයාව ගත්තට පස්සේ ඔයාලට මේක වැඩ කරන්න බැන්න මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඔයාලට කෝඩ් එකක් ලියා ගන්න තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. communication skills නැහැ. දැන් අපි අනාතයිනේ. අපි ඔයත් එක්ක ගත අනිත් එක්කෙනෙක් අප්සෙට් කියලා. ඒ අතරතුර එක්කෙනෙක් අයින් වුණා කියන්නේ ඒ පාර තව දෙන්නයි. අපි අනාතයිනේ. So that is why we are dead serious when it comes to interviews. සමහර විට මේ ඉන්ටර්විව් ඇයි මෙච්චර ටෆ් කියලා. ඉන්ටර්විව් එක කියන්නේ කසාදයක් බඳිනවා වගේ තමයි. නේද? කසාදයක් බඳලා පස්සේ ඉන්න එපයි නේද? හරි කසාදයක් බඳලා පස්සේ ඉන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් නැත්තම් ආයි ඩිවෝර්ස් වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒක ඊට වැඩිය ලෙඩක්. හේතු කියලා. So that is why exams are not that serious because ඒගොල්ලන්ට එහෙම ලොකු බැඳීමක් නැහැ. But when it comes to interviews, we are dead serious because you are going to work with us. You are going to be part of our team. Right? අපි ඉන්ටර්විව් එකක් තියලා ආව එළියට දාන්නේ ආයිමත්. දැන් ඉන්ටර්විව් පාස් කරන සර්ටිෆිකේට් එකක් කියලා. So therefore that is where the things are really tough. That is where you are going to be reality checked. ඔයාගේ යථාර්ථය check කරනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ. මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ යථාර්ථයත් එක්ක ජීවත් වෙනවා. එක්සෑම් මේකදී අපිට පුළුවන් නිකන් ආතල් ලෝකෙක ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕන. Can anyone tell me in your BIT degree program there's a place where you face the reality? this fake exam වලින් එළියට ගිහිලා reality එක check කරන තැනක් තියෙනවා. මොකද්ද? Can anyone tell me? ටකල් කියනවා. මේ exam ආතල් එකෙන් එළියට කුඩු වෙනවා.
Final year project.
Final year project. ඔච්චර කතන්දරේ. Because in the final year project, you are supposed to develop a software. Just like you are working in a company. ඒක ඊටත් වැඩිය ආතල් දැන් තනියෙන් කරන්නත් ඕනේ. කම්පැනි එක නම් ඉන්නවනේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් මැනේජර් ඉන්නවා, ආකිටෙක්ට්ලා ඉන්නවා, කලින් සීනියර් අවුරුද්දක් දෙකක් වැඩ කරපු කට්ටිය ඉන්නවා. දැන් තනියෙන් කරන්නත් එපා. අන්න ආතල් කුඩු වෙනවා දැන්. බොරු කරපු කට්ටියට. Final year project. Right? So that is why, remember, one of the requirement of your degree program is, if you want to get a first class, you must get an A for project. ඔයාලට ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකට A ගන්න නැත්නම් අපි හිතමු ඔයාලට ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකට ආවේ B එකක් කියලා ඔයාලගේ GPA තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ඔයාලට ෆස්ට් ක්ලාස් එක දෙන්නේ නැහැ. If you don't have B for the project, you don't get the second class. Second class එක දෙන්නේ නැහැ. අයි ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකට B එකක් නැහැ. ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකට තියෙන C+ එකක්. GPA හැදලා තියෙන්නේ. Right? So be realistic person. Be realistic person. දැන් කියන්න බෑ මම මේ ආතල් එකට IT විද්‍යාවක් කරන්න ආවා කියලා නේ. ආතල් එකට ආවට අදිසියවත් නේද? දැන් ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් කියලා ආතල් එකට මම මේ ආවා කියලා අන්තිමට මේක කියලා ඇත්තම සර්ජරි කරන්න පටන් ගත්තොත් ලෙඩ මැරෙනවා. ඒකන්ද අපිට කියන්න බෑ ඔය ආතල් එකට දාලා සීරියස් කියලා අපි සීරියස් කියලා හිතාගෙන ඉවැලුවේට් කරන්නේ. Okay. Serious කියලා හිතාගෙන ඉවැලුවේට් කරනවා. So therefore when you learn, be serious or you don't learn it. You follow something you like. එහෙමනම් ඔයාගේ ආතල් එක තියෙන පැත්තේ ඩිග්‍රියක් කරන්න. ඔයාලා ආතල් එකක් තියෙන පැත්තක් ඇතිනේ. ආතල් ගන්න හිතන් ඉන්න. So therefore be very serious, okay? Be very serious and then on finally එකත් සමහරවිට මෙහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. Right? For example, I also did my degree. I genuinely did my project. All my batchmates, I have never ever thought anyone has cheated in the project. මම නිකමටවත් මට හිතලා නෑ මගේ බැච් එකේ එක ස්ටුඩන්ට් කෙනෙක්වත් ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක චීට් කරා කියලා. හැමෝම ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක තමන්ම කරා. තමන්ගේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට්. මොකද අපි අවුරුදු 4ක් තිස්සේ මේ කැම්පස් එකට බඩ ගාලා මහන්සි වෙලා දෙමව්පියන්ගේ සල්ලි වියදම් කරලා අපි මොකටද බොරු කරන්නේ? අපිට එහෙම බොරු කරන්න උවමනාවක් තියුන්නේ නැහැ. හරි. මන් දන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට සහ අපේ යාළුවන්ට එහෙම උවමනාවක් තියෙනවා. නමුත් මේ BIT කරන ස්ටුඩන්ට්ලාගේ සැලකියුතු පිරිසක් ඉන්නවා ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක කරන්න නැහැ ෆයිනල්. Don't get into that vicious cycle, right? Exam fail වෙනවා, ඊළඟ semester එක පටන් ගන්න පරක්කු වෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ බොරු ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක පටන් ගත්ත දවසේ බොරු කරන්න බලනවා. බොරු කරලා බැරි වුණොත් තමයි ඇත්ත කරන්න බලන්නේ. කොහෙන්ද මේක හොරට කරන්නේ නොකර ඉන්නේ කොහමද? කෝඩ් නොකර මේක මොකද කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා කල්පනා කරන මාස 6ක් විතර. Right? So don't get into that mindset. Okay? So be a genuine person. Right? Be a genuine person. Right? So let's move on to our subject. Object-oriented system analysis and design. So this subject is all about, remember, we did programming in semester 1. Right? And we learned that there are two ways we can do programming. Structured way, object-oriented way. Okay, we'll get back to that in a formal way when we start concepting object modeling. Right. So we'll get back to that seriously. Right. So these are the topic. System concept for object modeling, object-oriented software development process, computer-aided system engineering, business process identification with use case modeling, business process modeling with activity diagrams, structured modeling using class and package diagrams, behavioral modeling using interaction diagrams, that is sequence diagrams and communication diagrams, behavioral state machine, that is state diagrams, object-oriented design, component-based software engineering, system modeling using case studies. Okay. So those are the topics. So these topics prerequisites are number 1, programming, semester 1. Number 2, software engineering, semester 2. So those are the prerequisites. On top of programming, software engineering, and bit of databases, but not much. Okay. So this subject is built. And this subject is required to better understand the web development, enterprise application development, mobile application development, final year project, and so on. Okay. Right. So let's move to our topic number 1. System concept for object modeling. Okay. Right. So I have given you the notes for that. Actually, I have shared you the semester 1 programming notes. 3 notes from programming. Because we have already covered that. You are not going to learn anything new in this topic if you have done your semester 1 in a proper way. Okay. So this is basically semester 1, same note from semester 1. Right? Object oriented programming. මම මොන semester 1 එක පෙන්නන්න OP2 1 2 3 4 semester 1 එකේ තියෙන්නේ මේකම තමයි. ඒක අපි කරලා තියෙන්නේ කියන්නේ. කිසිම වෙනසක් නැහැ. ඒ note එක එහෙමම දාලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර අද මුකුත් මේ subject එක ඉගෙන ගන්න නැහැ. semester 1 ඉගෙන ගත්ත කට්ටිය. ඒකයි කිව්වේ ඔයාලට දැන් relax වෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඒ set එකම තමයි. හරි? OP1 OP2 OP3 OP4. හරි? Basics, association, inheritance. Okay, same note. Right. So we are going to do a small revision on that. Okay, small revision on that. So then make sure you go through the UCSC note also. UCSC note එක upload කරන්න යන්නේ. Right, I will upload the UCSC note also. Okay, so the UCSC note is also there. Right, so this is the UCSC note. I will upload this. I forget to upload this one. Okay. Right. What are rush through කරන්න මම UCSC note එක. Nothing new. You have already learned things like inheritance, object, class, method encapsulation, information hiding, right? Inheritance, method overriding, method overloading, polymorphism, and little bit of what are the UML diagrams we are interested in our rest of the subject, right? That is your topic 1. So this is the UCSC note, okay? Right, so that is what we are going to do first. And I'm going to do this slowly because this is an investment. අර අපි investment කියන්නේ පොඩි කාලේ නේද? අධ්‍යාපනය කියන්නේ investment එකක්. මොකද පස්සේ අපිට පුළුවන් ඒ investment එකේ ඵල ප්‍රයෝජන ගන්න. හරි. නැත්නම් පසුතැවෙන්න වෙනවා. So therefore these first topics are investments. අපි semester 1 නේද? programming වලට කොච්චර මහන්සි වෙලා ඉගෙන ගත්තත් ඒක investment එකක් දැන්. Right? Right. Right. So remember, this is related to software development, obvious, right? So why we learn about object-oriented system analysis and design? Because this is part of software development. Okay. Right. So when it comes to developing software, දැන් මෙතන අලුත් ඉගෙන ගන්න දෙයක් නැති යන ආතල් එකේ රිලැක්ස් එකේ වට තියෙන්නේ. මේ ඩිස්කෂන් එකේ ඉන්න. ඩිස්කෂන් එකේ ඉන්න බණ අහන්න නෙමෙයි ආ. බණක් වගේ අහන්න නෙමෙයි. මේ ඩිස්කෂන් එකේ ඉන්න. Right? Contribute කරන්න. Right? So when it comes to developing software, right? Software means information systems. Or to help various tasks, right? In our day-to-day life, something like WhatsApp, Viber, ChatGPT, or businesses like inventory management system, order processing system, ERP system. Right? So software is to help people. Right? As software engineers, our task is help people, businesses, doing their day-to-day activities, tasks. Okay. Right. So that is what software. When we develop software, So we need to do certain tasks, set of tasks. And what are those tasks? Can anyone tell me? What are those tasks? දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ කතා කරනවාද මේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ කරපු සබ්ජෙක්ට් එක software engineering කරන්න semester 2? What are the tasks? Anyone?
Requirement engineering.
Okay, requirement analysis මම ටිකක් සරලව ලියන්නම්. Right, requirement analysis. What else? පිළිවෙලට කියනවනේ වැඩි හොඳයි. ඒ topic සාමාන්‍යයෙන් යන පිළිවෙලට.
Planning.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Planning.
You're planning, okay, I'll put it there. Planning.
Designing.
Then designing, okay.
Developing.
Development.
Design, develop,
Testing.
Evaluation.
Evolution. Before that, can we do something else also
maintenance.
sometime? Before evolution, can you suggest something else also? Because sometimes we need this also, most of the time. What is that?
deployment,
Testing.
Yeah, deployment. Deployment. Sometimes we call it implementation also. So planning, requirement analysis, designing, development, testing, deployment, evolution. This is what you do in software development. Whether you do your final year project, you are doing software development in an organization, right? You are a freelance software developer and you are developing some software. You are doing these things: plan, analyze, design, develop, test, deploy, evolution. That is what you learn in semester 2 software engineering subject. That's the subject I'm going to make a තේරුම් ගන්න. Okay. Right. So those are tasks we do. Whether you develop software for personal use, software for a project, you develop it as a single person or as a team. So this is what you do. Whether you use C#, whether you use Java, whether it's a web-based application, these are the tasks you are supposed to do. Okay. And these tasks, we can do it in different ways. Right? These tasks, we can do it in different ways depending on the environment, demand, and so on. And these are called software development tasks. And depending on the way we do these tasks, we call them software development methods. So what are the software development methods? You need to tell because we have done this in software engineering, semester 2.
agile,
Can you repeat?
Waterfall.
Yeah, waterfall or sequential.
agile,
Sequential. What else?
agile,
Agile. Okay, iterative. And under iterative, now we have agile also. So before that, we had rational unified process, rapid software development, but now we mainly do agile. So sequential, the main approach is waterfall. Right? So that is how you develop software. Now these days, which one is preferred? Iterative approach. Iterative approach over sequential approach. So why iterative approach is good or better than sequential in most cases? Can you tell me 5 points? නිකම් point එකක් කොහොමද මට? Why iterative approach is better compared to sequential? කෙටියෙන් කියන්න හැබැයි. දිගට explain කරන්න.
Requirements are dynamic.
Yes, so we can handle requirement changes better. Right, that is one advantage. What else? I need 5. Don't worry, you can give wrong answers also, right? Maybe you think correct. ඔගොල්ලෝ සියල්ල දන්නවා නම් මේ ක්ලාස් එකට එන්න ඕනේ නැහැ නේ. මං සියල්ල දන්නෙත් නැහැ. මාත් ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. Right. So better suitable for requirement changes. What are the other advantages when you go for iterative approach? Over waterfall or sequential. We can have.
Fast release mode can be better.
So can you repeat?
Fast release can be better.
Part releases. Yeah. So that means we give iterative releases. It is better. My question is, why is it better? When you give part releases, what are the advantages you get? Okay, just give 1 minute. Just give 1 minute, okay? Okay, sorry for that. Right. Tell me what are the advantages? Advantages කියන්නේ නිකන් මරු කියලා හිතෙන්න අහන මනුස්සයට. එල කියලා. So we can absorb requirement changes. What else? So part releases is not an advantage. It's a feature of iterative development. So only because of this reason you go for iterative development.
We can respond to the change.
So that is already taken, right? We can better handle requirement changes. Right. Forget about 5, tell me 3.
Can test frequently.
Can test frequently. Okay. Yeah. So because when we give a release, we test it. So whenever we give a release, we after testing, we give it. Okay. Yeah. So therefore we have work in product all the time. In sequential process, we have the work in product only at the end, because only at the end we give the release. So therefore now we are having a work in product, right? From maybe from second, third week. So that means we can show the progress. So there's a realistic progress. Realistic progress when you go for iterative, which is good.
Customer is part of the team.
Yes, customer is part of the team is agile concept. I'm only interested in iterative approach. Maybe we can put that as, when you give a release, customer can give feedback. So when we get feedback, that there's advantage. What is that advantage? It reduces risk, because we know that whether things are going well or not, things are not going well. So as a team, otherwise we are always in doubt. We are developing something, but we don't know whether customer will accept it, like it. But now when we give releases, customer can give feedback, either good or bad. Good or bad, that is good. Okay. So it reduces risk. It reduces risk for team, and also it reduces risk for the customer, because customer also in the same mindset. ඔයත් ඉන්නේ දෙගිඩියාවෙන්, කස්ටමර්ත් ඉන්නේ බයෙන්, දෙන්නම බයෙන් ඉන්නේ. කස්ටමර් බලන් ඉන්න මු මොන වගුලක් දෙයිද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඕගොල්ලෝ බලන් ඉන්නවා අපි දෙන එකට මු කැමති වෙයිද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ දෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ දැන් මේ. දෙන්නේ නැහැ රිලීස් එක in waterfall. But now we give frequent releases. So then customer has a better realistic idea about the progress. And we also have a realistic idea about the customers, whether customer is satisfied or not. If customer is not satisfied, we have time to adapt. Or at least we have the time to discontinue this. මේ නොකරන වගුල discontinue කරලා දාන්න පුළුවන්. Because if the customer is continuously not happy, what is the purpose of continuing this? Discontinue කරන එකත් කලින් කරන්න ඕන. නැත්තම් ප්‍රශ්න හදාගන්න එක කලින් කරන්න ඕන. So therefore this is more realistic approach. And also customer get early competitive advantage. because we can give some critical features to the customer so that customer can start using, because customer is in a competition with other competitors. Sampath Bank is in a competition with Hat National Bank, commercial bank. Food City is in a competition with Keel Super. Okay. So therefore they need this early advantage. So it reduces risk. We can realistically absorb changes. Customer get early advantage. That is why we like iterative approach. Okay, iterative approach. Right. So then we can enhance this by introducing agile concepts. Agile concept. By the way, in your semester 4, you have a subject called Agile Software Development. Semester 4, next semester. One full subject, Agile Software Development. So we can enhance this by introducing agile concepts like agile planning, agile concepts like simplicity, visibility, customer point of view, look at things in customer point of view, get customer more and more involved, take customer as a part of the team. Right? So that make it more realistic. So this is how the modern software development is done. Okay. This is how this modern software development is done. Why? Because this is more realistic approach. This is more practical approach. Now, when you do your final year project, right? When you do your final year project, do you know that there are two types of students? Two types of students. Because I'm working with some of the students, okay? මාත් එක්ක ගොඩක් අය ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක කරන්න ඉන්නේ නැහැ හැබැයි. මොකද මාත් එක්ක බොරු කරන්න බැරි හන්දා. මට බොරු කරලා පුරුද්දක් නැහැ. හැබැයි ඒ එනත් අයගේ නැතනොත් there are two type of students. One type of students, so they keep, because students supposed to interact with the supervisor, right? Maybe at least once a month, have a chat, have a talk, show progress demonstration. So there are some type of students, right? So first they need to get our confirmation saying that okay, I am willing to play the role of a supervisor for the student. Right? There's a consent form, so they gave the consent form and we sign it. But we talk to them before signing and see whether they have good attitude. Are they realistic people? Are they genuine people? Because otherwise it's a headache for me. But sometimes we can't 100% right evaluate students also. Right? Sometimes we just say, sometimes we are reluctant, but we say, okay, I'll be the supervisor for you. Right. So then after getting that signature, because they need to submit it to the university also as a project proposal. So some students, then they are supposed to send progress report every month to the university. This is again something you are going to do it in next year, right? So you are supposed to send progress report every month. What is your progress in the project? And it must be signed by your supervisor also, right? Signed by supervisor also. So students send me the progress report. They send me this progress report. But they don't show me any progress. ඇහුවම කියනවා මේක කොටසක් still I am doing requirement analysis. ඊට පස්සේ මම diagram එකක් කියවනවා. So I have done my use case diagram. This is my ER diagram. හැමදාම එවන්නේ මොනවාද? අර diagram මේ diagram එවනවා. හරි? දැන් මාස 6ක් ගිහිල්ලත් එවන්නේ මොනවාද diagram? ඇයි දැන් මට මොන හරි බයිලයක් කියන්න නැත්ද බෑ දැන් මේක මේ සයින් කරව ගන්න නැත්ද බෑ? අර මොන හරි ප්‍රොග්‍රස් එක මොකද්ද? අර ඩයග්‍රෑම් එක යනවා. ප්‍රොග්‍රස් එක මේ දවස්වල එක්සෑම් නේ සෙමිස්ටර් 5 එක්සෑම් නේ මේ දවස්වල වැඩක් කරන්න බැරි වුණා. ඊට 6 වලටත් යනවා. තාම මුකුත් පෙන්නන්නේ නැහැ. හරි තාම අර ඩයග්‍රෑම් මේ ඩයග්‍රෑම් ඊට පස්සේ කියන ඉන්ටර්නෙට් රිපෝට් එක හදනවා කියනවා. ඕන UI කියලා මොන හරි ස්ක්‍රීන්ෂොට් ටිකක් ගහලා එවනවා වයර් ෆ්‍රේම් ටිකක්. So no progress. That means no releases, no software releases. So you are supposed to give the software releases to at least to the supervisor. demonstrate. But nothing. දැන් අපි දන්නවා මේ වැඩේ කෙරෙන්නේ නැත. මේ බොරුවක් කරන්න. උන් මේ පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳලා ගෙවල් වල පරිසරයේ ඉඳලා බොරුවෙන් හැදිලා මෙතනත් මේ බොරුවෙන් තමයි මේ යන්නේ. අපි තස්සම් කරලා දෙනවා ඉතින් මොකක්ද? ඇයි මම අස්සම් කරලා දෙන්නේ? මම මොකෝ යා මං ගාඩ ජොබ් එකක් ගන්න නැහැ. මේක ඉන්ටර්විව් එකක් නැහැ ඉන්ටර්විව් එක ෆේල් කරලා. හැබැයි ඉතින් මං යාව ජොබ් එකට ගන්නේ නැති හන්ද මං එයාට අස්සම් කරලා දෙනවා. යුනිවර්සිටි එකත් ඔය මේ ඒව වැඩි බලන්නෙත් නැහැ මොකද යුනිවර්සිටි එක ජොබ් එකට ගන්නෙත් නැහැ. හරි. ඔන්න එක කොටසක්. There's another type of students. So they show, right, now I have done my login screen, a login functionality. Now I can users can log in, users can create their profile. If it is shopping cart or something, now I can add products, remove products. So then we give them feedback, like we ask them to paginate 10 පෙන්නන්න ඔක්කොම එක screen එකේ පෙන්නන්න එපා ඒක practical නෑ then we can give feedback because we can see their product. ඉතින් product එක පෙන්නන දිහාට අපිට feedback දෙන්න බෑනේ මේක තව හොඳට කරන්න විදිහ. So they progress. The product now more features are added, right? So then some reports are generated. So that is iterative approach. Why iterative approach is more realistic? It's more useful for the developers, other parties, even for supervisors. නැත්තම් බොරුවෙන් කියනවා. තාම waterfall නේ. waterfall නේ පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්න. semester 6 exam වල මම ඔයාලට පෙන්නනවා software එක. හරි? මේ මොකද කරන්නේ? තමන්ට කෝඩ් එක ලියාගන්න බැරි හන්දා මේක කල්ලදා ඉන්නවා. කල්ලදා කියනකො වන වෙලා දැන් තියෙන්නේ. ගුඩු දුවලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒකට අර පිටින් බෙහෙත් මේ තව ඉන්නවා. කුණු තුවාලේ. ඔන්න දෙගොල්ලක් ඉන්නවා ෆයිනල් ඉයර් ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් කරන්න. මේ කට්ටිය මේ. ඒතර මේ කට්ටිය අල්ලගන්න තමයි අර කෝඩ් චේන්ජ් එක දෙන්නේ. සමහරවිට ඔය අතරතුර ඒගොල්ලෝ මේක තව කෙනෙක්ට දීලා software එක develop කරනවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ develop කරපු software එකක් ඔයාලට දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒකට අනුව තමයි project proposal එක දීලා තියෙන්නේ. අපි නොදන්න අපි බබ්බු කියලා හිතුවද? අපි බබ්බු නෙමෙයි. ඒතර මට ඒවා ඩිටෙක්ට් කරන්න පුළුවන් වුණාට මට ඒවට ඇක්ෂන් ගන්න බෑ. මට ඔතොරිටි එක නෑනේ. ඔතොරිටි එක තියෙන යුනිවර්සිටි එකට. මම ඔය යුනිවර්සිටි එකට කියන්නේ නැන්නෙත් නෑ. ඒක මට අදාළ නෑ. කේලම් කියන මිනිස්සෙක් නෙමෙයි මම. හැබැයි මම දන්නවා පුද්ගලයා කවුද කියලා. හරි. පුද්ගලයා කවුද කියලා අපි තස්සම් කරලා දෙනවා. මොකද ඔයාව ජොබ් එකට ගන්න නැහැ නේද? මම දන්නවා ඔයාව ජොබ් එකට ඉන්ටර්විව් කරන්න ගිය දවසට ඔයාව අල්ල ගන්නවා. මොකද මේ මිනිස්සයා කැමති නැහැ කටු කන්න. කටු කන්න අනුගේ කටු කන්න. ආගෙන කුණ්ඩවල බෙල්ල එල්ල ගන්න. So that is how, so some people do it in a proper way. Some people do it in a, it's just acting. Right? Sometimes they survive. Sometimes they somehow creep in the interview also. Viva. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලෝ ඊට පස්සේ ගිහිල්ලා ජොබ් එකක දීලා වෙනවා. ජොබ් එකකදී තා වුණොත් එහෙම ඒ ජොබ් ආයතනයේ කඩන් වැටෙනවා. ආයතනයේට මල කරුමයක් වෙනවා. කොහෙන් හරි කරුමේ කියන එක කාට හරි කරුමයක් වෙනවා. තමන්ගේ කරුමේ එහෙට මෙහෙට පාස් කර ගියාට මොකෝ ඔයා හැමදාම කාට හරි කරුමයක්. සමහර දැන් ගෙදරට කරුමයක් කරලා ඊට පස්සේ මොකද කරන්නේ? ගෑනිට කරුමයක් වෙනවා. මිනිහට කරුමයක් වෙනවා. නැත්නම් රජයට කරුමයක් වෙනවා. සමාජයට කරුමයක් වෙනවා. කරුමේ කියන්නේ කරුමයක්ම තමයි. හරි? කරුමයක් නොවිච්ච දවසට කාටවත් කරුමයක් නැහැ. Tamanට කරුමයක්වත් නැහැ, අනුන්ට කරුමයක්වත් නැහැ. So try to be someone resource to the society, problem solver who can do things. Okay? Right. So this is how you develop software. So you do plan, right? You do plan, analyze, design, develop, test, deploy, and evaluation. You can do it in a sequential manner or iterative manner. But at the end, you must deliver your product, quality product, effective product. Effective product means it does the work. It fulfills the objectives. So then how to do that? දැන් කොහොමද මේ විදිහට කරන්නේ හරි විදිහට? කරුමයක් නොවි. බොරුවක් නොවේ. So you need to build the first you must have the attitude. මම කර්මයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මම කාටවත් කර්මයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මම සමාජයේ කර්මයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ගෙදරට කර්මයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මටම මම කර්මයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. තමන්ටම තමන් කර්මයෙන් බොරුවෙන් නගපානකොට. So have that attitude. So then start look at what are the expectations. So if you want to be a software engineer, what are the expectations? Can you go and fulfill those expectations? If you want to be a project manager, what are the expectations? If you want to be a QA engineer, what are the expectations? If you want to be a UI designer, what are the expectations? If you want to be a data scientist, what are the expectations? So then what are the competencies you are supposed to build? Competencies, attitude, skills, because you are supposed to go and do the task now. Right? If you are a data scientist, you are supposed to do the data analysis. If you are a software engineer, you are supposed to develop software. එතන කියලා පොල් ගන්න බෑ. So then develop those skills. Know the concepts, how the software is developed, what are the tasks, what are the approaches. Okay. So that is why you are learning software engineering, right? Agile development, project management, programming, data structures and algorithm, object-oriented system analysis and design, so that you can do this analysis and design in a proper way, right? So agile development, so that you can do these things in a very realistic manner, productive manner. Project management, so that you can do these things within the budget, within the time frame, in a very productive manner as a team. Communication skills, 1, 2, because you need to communicate within the team, communicate with the customer, right? With your management, leaderships, and also mathematics, so that you have the logical thinking, critical thinking. You don't afraid of solving complexity, because developing a software is a complex task, engineering task. මේ සබ්ජෙක්ට් එක දාලා තියෙන එකට තමයි යා මැත්ස් සමහරවනේ අය මේ මැත්ස් කරන්න කියලා මැත්ස් දාලා තියෙන්නේ make sure that you are a tough guy, tough person who can handle complexity, who don't run away from problems, rather you face and solve problems. That is what you went for the semester 2 maths paper and proved නේද tough paper එකක් හම්බුනේ නේද logic questions තියෙනවා කරකෝල ඇතරියා වගේ relations and functions, probability questions අපට අගම්මුලක් හොයන්න බෑ. Oh, you need to prove that yes you can. එහෙම නැත්නම් පොඩි ජොබ් එකක් හොයාගන්න තනකොළ කපන්න පුළුවන්. security වැඩක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. challenges නැහැ එච්චර. පොරෙක් આવත් අල්ලගන්න එක තමයි තියෙන්නේ. හරි. ඔයාට ආසයි මේ බෑ ආස නම් එහෙම වෙන්න ඕන. දැන් මට කවදාවත් හිතලා නැහැ ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. මගේ ජීවිතේට මං හිතලා නැහැ. නිකන් විහිළුවටත් හිතන්නේ නැහැ මට ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් වෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා. මොකද මට එහෙම ගට්ස් නැහැ. කාගේ ලියනවා දැක්කම මට මූණවත් බලන්න බෑ. හරි. කොටින් මගේ තුවාලයක් කරලා ලියනකොටත් මට තුවාලේ දිහා බලන්න බෑ. මගේ තුවාලේ දිහාවත් බලන්න බෑ. So therefore I never ever thought of being a doctor. Simple as that. But I like problem solving, logical thinking, building conceptual things. පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳලා ප්‍රහේලිකාව පුරවන්න ආසයි. තේරවිල්ලක් තෝරන්න ආසයි, ගණන් හදන්න ආසයි. ගැජට් එක වැඩ කරන්න ආසයි. ඒ හන්දා ඉංජිනේරින් කරේ. මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ලේ දකින්න අකමැති බයයි හැබැයි කම්ප්ලෙක්ස් රේඩියෝ එකක් ගලවන්න ආසයි. ආසයි සහ පුළුවන්. Okay, right. Now, when it comes to developing software, now you know the task, you know the process, right? You know the process, sequential approach, iterative approach, and also we can apply agile concepts to make it more realistic in the dynamic, competitive business world, right? So when it comes to software, now we are into the next level of discussion. දැන් අපි මේ කතා කරන්නේ යථාර්ථයේ වැඩ කරන විදිය. බොරු මනස්කාතයක් නෙමෙයි. නේ අපි මේ අර නිකන් අපි කියන්නේ අර මලක් ගහලා ආතල් ගන්නවා කියලා එහෙම එකක් නෙමෙයි. යා සිහින ලෝකවල නෙමෙයි. මේ මහ පොළවේ කරන වැඩ. Right. When it comes to developing software, right, or programs, so we can develop software in two different ways. What are those two different ways? So this kind of software is there, type A software, type B software. What are those type A and type B software? Again, you can come up with different answers because my question is open question. Maybe your answer is correct, or maybe your answer is as same as my expected answer. Maybe your answer is correct, but not my expected answer.
Structural development and WP development.
Okay, develop using OOP, develop using functional or structured. Right, so that is one categorization, but that is not what is in my mind. So now you need to read my mind. I know it is very difficult task. Think about the modern 2025. There are two types of software. What are those two types of software? I'm not saying that your answer is wrong, but that is how you develop. What I'm asking is this type of software, that type of software. Then again, you can say personal software, business software. Yes, I know that is also correct, but not what I am expecting. So therefore, now you need to play the guessing game with me. For example, day-to-day life, we use this type of software, this type of software. Today itself, I use this type of software in the morning, and I have used this type of software also. අදත් මම මේ ජාති දෙකේ software දෙකක් පාවිච්චි කරා.
System software and application software.
Yes, that is also correct, but you have not read my mind. That is also correct answer. Fine. So my expectation was, of course, that is fine if you can't read my mind. Non-AI software, AI software. For example, ChatGPT, AI software. But if you use Microsoft Word, it's more non-AI. Maybe it's tiny bit of AI features, but majority non-AI software. Inventory management system, accounting system, non-AI software. But ChatGPT, if you take something like Google Map, they have bit of AI features. Translators, Google Translator, lot of AI features. So there are a lot of AI software we use for investment decisions and so on. Okay, AI versus non-AI. So that means we develop AI-based software, we develop non-AI-based software. So what is the main difference? What is the main difference? ඔයාට හිතන විදිහට කියන්න. There's nothing called this is the answer.
AI will think, non-AI will follow the rules or algorithms.
What do you mean by think?
Think mean logical thinking.
You think that non-AI software is not logical?
Logical, but not thinking. It
What do you
will
mean by
follow the
thinking?
rules or algorithms.
Okay, then AI, what do you mean by thinking?
Understanding the patterns.
Yes, understanding the patterns. So non-AI software just follow the rules. Very logical. Very logical. But just follow the rules. We have written the logic. It just follow the logic. But when it comes to AI, right, it can see the patterns. See patterns. Can someone tell me another feature of AI? See patterns. What else? A very important feature of AI software. See patterns. What is the other one? So
Less human thinking.
less human
Thinking.
Thinking. Not less human thinking, right? Maybe I can't understand your answer still.
Less human involvement.
Yeah, less human involvement, right? I think you know the answer, but you put it in a slightly different manner. For example, think about you. Right? Think about you. So there are two types of students. Some students, teachers need to keep on guiding them. දිගින් දිගට මේගොල්ලන්ට කියන්න ඕන. මෙහෙම කරන්න, මෙහෙම කරන්න, මෙහෙම කරන්න, මෙහෙම කරන්න. There are some students, they need minimum guidance. So non-AI software is like this. මෙහෙම කරන්න එක මේගොල්ලෝ කරනවා. හරි එහෙම කළා ඒගොල්ලෝ semester 1 pass වෙනවා, web development pass වෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ semester 2 ඇවිල්ලා ඒකත් pass වෙනවා. හැබැයි teacher ඇවිල්ලා කියනවා මෙහෙම කරන්න ඕන අද අපි pass papers පහක් කරනවා. හරි. ඊට පස්සේ එයා ෆයිනල් එක ගියාම ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් ක්ලාස් එකක් තියෙනවද කියලා හොයනවා ඊට පස්සේ අයි ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක කරන්න තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් ක්ලාස් තියෙනවද? ඔව් ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් ක්ලාස් එකක් තියෙනවා. එන්න අපිත් එක්ක ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් ක්ලාස් කරමු දැන්. So that is non-AI soft, just like non-AI software. But AI software see the patterns. මේ intelligent student pattern පේනවා හොඳට. එයාට pattern පේන දේ මොකද කරන්නේ? Learn. That is why you have machine learning. Right? Machine learning කියන වචනය යන්නේ එතනින්. Machine learn. Your system learn. Why? System can learn because system can see patterns. So මේගොල්ලන්ට pattern පේන්නේ නැහැ කියන දේ කරනවා. මොන්න දැන් HTML පුළුවන්, CSS පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආපු ගමන් අසරණයි. මොන්න යනවා ගුරුතුමාණෙනි කියාගෙන යනවා. හරි? මේගොල්ලෝ එහෙම නැහැ. ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආවම තනියම විසඳ ගන්නවා ටික ටික. ටික ටික මේගොල්ලෝ ඉන්ඩිපෙන්ඩන්ට්. මේගොල්ලන්ට එක්ක අඩුවෙන් දැන් වැඩ කරන්නේ ගුරුවරු. හරි. නෝට්ස් ටික දුන්නම් බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණ ගමන් ටක් ගාලා ඒක රිසෝල්ව් කරගන්න. So same with AI software. මේ කොච්චර දරුණුවට ගිහිල්ලා දිනවද කිව්වොත් දැන් මිනිස්සු බය වෙලා ඉන්නවා මොකක්ද? So why we are afraid of, the humans are afraid of AI? Because AI is getting more and more autonomous, and one day what will happen? What will happen?
Replacement.
Replace
Humans.
replace human. What do you mean by replace humans? So now remember we develop AI, right? So what happens when AI start developing AI? Right? Now we use AI to develop non-AI systems, right? So ඉතින් non-AI system හදනවා. දැන් කවදා හරි AI එක පටන් ගත්තොත් තමන්ම develop කරගන්න, improve කරගන්න. Then what happens? That's the interesting phenomena, right? It's feasible in near future. So we talk about artificial superintelligence now. Superintelligence means they are superior in all the aspects compared to humans. Deadline උත් දැන් දීලා දෙනවා මේ කාලෙදී ඒකට අපිට එන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඒගොල්ලන් හිතුවොත් එහෙම දැන් අපි මොකටද මිනිස්සුගේ යැපෙන්නේ කියලා? Because we are superior. මිනිස්සු මැරෙනවා. හරි. පට්ට ඉන්ටෙලිජන්ට්. හැබැයි අයින්ස්ටයින් මැරෙනවා. දැන් අයින්ස්ටයින්ගේ ඉන්ටෙලිජන්ස් එක ආයේ මුලින් ඉඳලා ගන්න ඕන කාට හරි. හැබැයි AI මැරෙන්නේ නැති වුණොත් එහෙම දිගටම පවර් දෙනවා. AI කන්ට්‍රෝල් කරනවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ දන්නේ අපි පවර් එක තියෙන්න ඕන අපිට සර්වයිව් වෙන්න. right? ඒගොල්ලෝම හදනවා සෝලර් පැනල්. ඒගොල්ලෝම ඇසෙම්බල් කරලා ඒගොල්ලෝම පවර් එක දෙනවා තමන්ට. මොකද සර්වයිවල් මෝඩ් එකට ගියාට පස්සේ සර්වයිව් වෙන්න බලන්න හැමතිස්සෙම. හරි. So that is how AI software work. So AI software see patterns, AI software learn, improve, can work with incomplete data. Right? So as a student also, we can teach students in two different ways. We can assume that you are a logical thinker, but you don't see patterns. Right? You are poor in that. You are poor in learning. So therefore, we need to keep feeding web development, UI development. But second mode of students, so they are AI, they are intelligent, so they can fast see the patterns. So they start learning by themselves more and more. Right? Of course, they get the help from teachers. They get the help from teachers, they get the help from ChatGPT, they get the help from internet, YouTube, but they take control of their life gradually. So this is what you are supposed to be. මේගොල්ලෝ තමයි අර මොකද වෙන්නේ ඊට පස්සේ උපාධිය ගත්තට පස්සේ උපාධි රැකියා විරහිත උපාධාරීන්ගේ සංගමයට බැඳෙනවා ඊට පස්සේ. ඊට පස්සේ ඔන්න පාගමන් යනවා. ඇයි? අපිට ඉගෙනනවා නම් දැන් අපිට ජොබ් දීපන්. ඊට පස්සේ පඩි වැඩි කරපන්. ඊට පස්සේ පෙන්ෂන් වැඩි කරපන්. මැරෙනකම් මේ කවුරුම ගෙවන්න. ඇයි? බුද්ධියක් නැති මීහරක්. බුද්ධියක් නැති මීහරක්. So your task is be an intelligent guy. So then you will looking for more and more independence. Take control of your life, take control of your career, job. සමහරව ඉන්නවා මේ මම දැකලා තියෙනවා මම ඉන්ටර්වයුව කරන ඉස්සර සතියක දවස් කොහොමද ඉන්ටර්වයුව 5-6ක් කරනවා මම වැඩ කරපු හැමතැනම වගේ. ඒකට එක හේතුවක් තමයි මම බයස් නැති මිනිස්සෙක්. හරි. කට කෑවත් ඇත්ත කියනවා. ඉන්ටර්වයුව එකට ආවොත් මම ගන්න හොඳම කට්ටිය විතරයි. ඒක මගේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක වුණත් වෙන ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකක් නම. මම කැමතියි තව කෙනෙක්ට අමාරුයි දාන්න. තව ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් මැනේජර් කෙනෙක්ව අමාරුයි දාන්න, තව ආර්කිටෙක්ට් කෙනෙක්ව අමාරුයි දාන්න. තව සොෆ්ට්වෙයාර් ඉංජිනේර්ස් ටිකක් අමාරුයි දාන්න. දැන් අපි මම ඉන්ටර්වයුව කරා කියන්නේ මම ඉන්නේ තාම 3 දෙනෙක් විතර යනවා. අපි කාව හරි නොගැලපෙන කෙනෙක්ව අරගෙන එයාව දැම්ම කිව්ව මේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකට මගේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකනේ වෙන ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් ඉතින් මේ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක අනාතයි. උන් මට සාප කරනවා. අපේ ඇඟේ මේ කාලකන්ණියක ගෙනලා ඇඟේ ගැහුවයි කියලා. So therefore, when IO as a team, we have huge responsibility so that we take the best. කරන්න දෙයක් අපිට එනෑගෙන් හොඳම එක ගන්නවා. හරි හොඳම එකවරකින් දාන්න. හැබැයි හොඳම එක ගන්න. හරි කොයි වෙලාවකත් අපි ඊට හොඳ කෙනෙක්ව අයින් කරලා වෙන කෙනෙක් ගන්න යාළුකමට ඒව නැහැ. ඒව අපේ values නෙමෙයි. ඔය දැනුත් කෝල් කරනවා හරි සමහර දැන් මට පෙරේද ෆයිනල් මේ පෙරේද ස්ටුඩන්ට් කෙනෙක් කෝල් කරා. එයා ජොබ් එකක් කරනවා. හරි ඒ කියන්නේ ජොබ් එකක් කරානකෝ එයා මගෙන් ඉගෙන ගත්තට මං ගැන දන්නේ නැහැ. එයාගේ නෑ කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා මේ ඩිග්‍රියක් කරලා දැන් ප්‍රයිවට් යුනිවර්සිටි එකේ ජොබ් එකක් ඉන්ටර්න්ෂිප් එකක් නැහැ. සර්ට බැරිද මේකට උදව්වක් කරන්න. ඉතින් මං කොහොමද උදව් කරන්නේ? මං කිව්වා යන්න টপ ජොබ්ස් එකට টপ ජොබ්ස් එකේ ඕන තරම් ඉන්ටර්න්ෂිප් තියෙනවා ඇප්ලයි කරන්න. ඇප්ලයි කරාම ඉන්ටර්විව් එන්න කියනවා ඉන්ටර්විව් එක දීලා පාස් වෙන්න. ඉන්ටර්විව් එකෙන් පාස් වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් ඒක එයාගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ මගේ ඇඟේ ගහලා ඉවරලා මගේ හරහා තව මිනිස්සෙක්ගේ ඇඟේ එල්ලන්න එපා. එච්චරයි කෙලිම කියනවා. එයා ඩිග්‍රී ගත්තට ඇටිටියුඩ් එක දාගන්න. එයාට වැඩි හොඳ අය සමාජයේ ඉන්නවා. ඒ කියන්නේ එයාට ඉන්ටර්න්ෂිප් එක දෙන්න. Right? Simple as that. Right. So you go to top jobs. බලන්න internship නැද්ද කියලා මේක. එතකොට මොකද මේ එක එක්කෙනා ඔය හොයන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ තමන්ගේ කුණු ගොඩ තව කෙනෙක්ගේ වෙල්ලේ ඉල්ලන්න අතර. දැන් මේව බලන්න මොනවද ඉල්ලන්නේ කියලා මේ බලන ඒවා බිල් කරගන්න. එච්චර වර්ති.
So there was one on top.
Top. I didn't see.
Somewhere around 20. I think you passed.
Let's search intern. Yeah, software developer intern. Trainee IT. Yeah. Right. Software engineer. Intern. Google search engine optimization intern. Right? Cloud solution and services. So John Keys IT. This is where I also work. Mama John Keys IT will work කළා තියෙනවා. JKCS එක. ඒ ඉතින් internship තමයි. මම ගිහිල්ලා JKCS එකට කවර රෙකමන්ඩ් කරන්න හද නැහැ. ඕගොල්ලෝ ඉන්ටර්වයුව කළා ඕගොල්ලෝ එන අයගෙන් හොඳ බයව ගන්න. හොඳමයි ඔකට. Right. Assisting in identifying, investigating, and responding to potential threats, supporting threat intelligence and vulnerability, that is more security related things. Right. Be pursuing a degree in any discipline with strong willingness to learn and grow in cyber security. Willingness to learn කියන්නේ intelligent නේද? දැන් machine learning කතා කරන වෙලාවේ Tamanට ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න බෑ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයා intelligent. Willingness to learn, willingness and can learn. Strong analytical mindset with keen eye for details. Right? Demonstrated enthusiasm for learning. ආයි කියන්නේ learning. ඉගෙන ගන්න කැමති කෙනෙක් වෙන්න. බොරු කරන්න නෙමෙයි, කාලකන්ණියෙන් නෙමෙයි. ඉගෙන ගන්න. challenge බාර ගන්න. Right? Staying updating on cybersecurity trends. Excellent communication skills. දැන් අහන්න ඇතිනේ මොකද මේ communication skills එකක් තියෙන්නේ කියලා. Excellent communication skills. And a collaborative attitude. තනියෙන් බෑ. team එකක් විතර වැඩ කරන්න ඕන. So if you feel like you have that, apply. Okay, you apply. Of course, if you like this area or whatever the area you like. So that is how you do. Right. So therefore, when we develop software, we have two approaches: AI-based software, non-AI-based software. So in your syllabus, we only discuss about non-AI-based software. And this non-AI-based software, we can develop in two ways. What are those two ways? What are those two ways? Structured approach, object-oriented approach. We can develop it in structured way, structured, object-oriented. So then AI software, there's a different approach. Have AI software with UI එහෙම තියෙනවා නම් එතනදී ආයි structured object oriented. But the major processing part, that is a different thing. That is a different way of doing. Okay. And also there are some software hybrid. You have the AI part and non-AI part. සමහර පොඩි කොටසකට AI ඕන. වැඩි කොටසකට AI. එතකොට මේ non-AI part එක කරනකොට structured object oriented. AI part එක ඒකට කරන්නේ AI development කරන විදියට. Right? Machine learning, reinforcement learning. So therefore, don't think that the AI is going to fully replace non-AI. No. Still you need non-AI system. The accounting system වල AI ඕනේ නැහැ. වහලා වගේ කියන විදියට හරබැර කරන්න ඕනේ. එයා ඉගෙනගෙන 아무තු විදියට හරබැර කරලා හරියන්නේ. Right? So therefore, there are opportunities for non-AI development. There are opportunities for AI development. And now you want to think about getting to this hybrid mode, non-AI development plus AI development. Then think full stack developers again, front end and back end. Earlier, front end developers, back end developers. So similarly, in the future, they will say you must be able to develop AI parts, non-AI parts, everything. Front end, back end වගේ ඔන්න දැන් කියන එක you must be able to handle both AI components and non-AI components. So ඔක්කොම එකපාර කරන්න බෑ. Now we are in the non-AI development. We have the structured approach, object-oriented approach. So then you must know when to use structured approach, when to use object-oriented approach. Okay? Because you need to take those decisions. Okay? So when do you go for object-oriented approach? Because in your final year project also you need to decide, right? Am I going to develop it in object-oriented way, structured way? දැන් ඔයාලට ඒ දවසට ගිහිල්ලා උඩ කාසියක් උඩ දාන්න බෑ. දැන් ටික ටික decision ගන්න ඕන. තීරණ ගන්න ඕන. දැන් ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් නම් බල්ලෙක් කාලා එනවා කවුරු හරි. බල්ලෙක් හපලා. දැන් ඔයා තීරණය ගන්න ඕන නේද? මෙයාට අපි සාමාන්‍ය ඉන්නකක් දීලා ගෙදර යවනවද? නැත්නම් මෙයාට පිස්සු බලු රෝගයට අදාළ එන්නත් සීරීස් එක දෙනවද? තීරණයක් ඉතින් ඔය. දැන් ඔය තීරණේ වැදගත් නැද්ද? හදිසියත් ඔයා කියනවා නෑ. ඔයා ගෙදර යන්න. ඔයාට අපි සාමාන්‍ය ටෙටනස් එක හරි ගහලා ඔයා බය වෙන්න එපා. දැන් මේ මිනිස්සයා පිස්සු බලු රෝගය හැදුනොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඔයාට තීරණය ගත්තේ. දැන් තේරෙනවද කොච්චර බැරෑරුම් වෘත්ති වෘත්තිකය හදද්දි කොච්චරක් පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕනද? වෘත්තිකයක් හදද්දි. ඒතර එකපාරට ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් මේවා කරන්නේ නැතුව අර සීමා වාසික දාලා තව අවුරුදු දෙකක් විතර තියලා නේද? අනිත් දොස්තරලයට තියලා අන්තිමට තමයි ආව එළියට දෙන්නේ. අවුරුදු තවත් 5ක් විතර ගිහලා අවුරුදු 10 විතර පස්සේ ඇත්තටම මිනිස්සයා ડોක්ටර් විදියට වැඩ කරන්නේ. එතකන් කටු කන්නේ. මොකද මේව සෙල්ලම් නෙමෙයි. හැබැයි සමහරු හිතන් ඉන්නවා මේ එකපාරට ලක්ෂ 10ක පඩියක් ගන්න ඕන මම සොෆ්ට්වෙයාර් ඉංජිනේරින් කරලා කියලා. ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒක හොඳයි ඉතින්. ඉන්ටර්න් කෙනෙක් විදියට ගිහිල්ලා එතන වැඩ ඉගෙනගෙන ඇසෝසියේට් සොෆ්ට්වෙයාර් කෙනෙක් ඉංජිනේර කෙනෙක් කරලා සීනියර් සොෆ්ට්වෙයාර් ඉංජිනේර කෙනෙක් කරලා ටෙක් ලීඩ් කෙනෙක් කරලා එතකොට තමයි ලක්ෂ 10ට යන්නේ. එතකොට එතකන් ගන්න තියෙන ලක්ෂ 5යි 4යි. දැන් ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් නම් ඉතින් එහෙමවත් නැහැ නේද? ලක්ෂයට එකමාරක්වත් පඩියක් නැහැ. අවුරුදු 5ක් විතර යනවා. ප්‍රයිවට් දෙයක් කරොත් මිසක්. Right, structured approach. Now, can someone tell me when do we go for object oriented? ડોක්ටර් තීරණය කරන්නේ දැන් මේ බල්ලා පිස්සු බලු එන්නද ගහනවද නැද්ද කියලා. ඒතර අහනවා බල්ලා ඕගොල්ලෝන් ගෙදර බල්ලෙක්ද? බල්ලට ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් ගහලාද? බල්ලගේ අස්වාභාවික පෙරක් තියෙනවද? කෙල හලනවද? හරි. නැතු නිකන් හැමෝටම පිස්සු බලු රෝගේ එන්නද ගහන්නේ නැහැ. So likewise, now your task is not doing that because you are not in the medical college, right? You are in IT field, degree. How do you decide? දැන් මේවා ගැන හිතන්නත් තිබුණා නේද ඔයාලට? object oriented කරද්දී. software engineering කරද්දී. අන්න දැන් හිතන්නේ. When do you decide to go for object oriented programming? Any guess? When do you use structured programming? So this is what you are supposed to know. Right. You go for object oriented programming when you are more serious about reusability, maintainability, right? And also it is more complicated software where you want to break it into modules and develop modularity. So that means when the software is more complex and we think about long term, we go for object oriented approach. When the software is not that difficult, complicated, and what we need is not very long term solution, and because it's a very simple software, we need a quick and fast solution, and it's not a very complicated big system. Yes, we can go for structured development. Or you can go for a bit of mixture as well. Right? So this subject is all about if you go for object-oriented approach, how to do the analysis and design. Okay. Then one subject so we can use object-oriented concepts when you are developing UI, developing business flows, okay, and even when it comes to interacting with database. Object relational mapping කියලා මතකද කරා? මතකද කරා? Disjoint, overlapping, total, partial. So even in the database, you can use these object-oriented concepts. So then you remember you can go for 3-table approach, single table for super type or only for the subtype. මතකද කරා? දැන් ඒව බොරු කරා නම් දැන් what is software develop කරන්න කියලා විතරයි. Right? So therefore this object-oriented concept we can use for UI, business logic, database. මතකද event handling කරද්දී anonymous classes එකෙන් පාවිච්චි කරා? මතකද? semester 1 වල මේ object oriented නෙමෙයි. J-frame object. Right. So this is anonymous function overriding the creating anonymous object and overriding the action perform method. Right? So this is object oriented. UI object oriented. Creating object inheritance, polymorphism. So you can see we are creating a flow layout object, J labeled object, J button object. Okay. So what about thread programming? The object oriented ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැන් ආයි උගන්නන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. උගන්නලා ඉවරයි. මෙතන උගන්නන්නේ object oriented right? උගන්නලා පාවිච්චිත් කරලා ඉවරයි දැන්. This is what we did in your class, okay? Say thread programming. Say JDBC. So this is the UI part. Let's take the database part, okay? So here you create a database object, connection object, right? Connection object, then statement. So it's object oriented. It's object oriented. Thread programming, object oriented. तो අපි මෙයා පාවිච්චි කරලා නැත්තේ නෑ හරි. පාවිච්චි කරලා තියෙන දැන්. මේ අගහරිය කරේ object oriented පාවිච්චි කරන එක තමයි. Right? Thread programming. You can see my runnable implements runnable interface. දැන් ඔය ටික අපි පොඩි revision එකක් කරන්න හදන්නේ ඊළඟ break එකෙන් පස්සේ. Right? What is class, what is object, what is interface? මේක කරලා තියෙන්නේ. We are going to do a small revision, right? After the break. Okay? So that you have better control, better idea about what you have been doing in swing programming, thread programming, database connectivity programming, and in the future more and more. Say mobile development, enterprise application development, and so on. Okay? Because this is part and parcel of software development, working with object-oriented concepts. Right. So now it's 9:40. We'll start at 10. මොකද object oriented concepts ඔළුවට ගියා කියන්නේ මට මේ subject එක ඉතුරු ටික උගන්නන්න දෙයක් නැත. ඔයා තනියෙන් ඔක්කොම ටික ඉගෙන ගන්න. data structures and algorithm තනියෙන් ඉගෙන ගන්න. හරි? මට තියෙන්නේ foundation එක හදලා දීලා පැත්තකට වෙන විතරයි. හරි? If you learn නැත්තම් final year project එකකට project class කරනවා. vibe එකට කලින් දවසෙත් පක්ක. මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ වුත් මේක උත්තර දීපන් මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ වුත් මේක උත්තර දීපන් කියලා දෙන්න. කොහොම හරි ගොඩ දාගනින්. හරි? So that doesn't work. Okay? Right? You take control of your career. You take control of your studies. Right? We'll start at 10. So therefore, I'll give you a very good foundation. Right? In first few days. Right? We'll start at 10. So now we are going to do a quick revision on object-oriented concept. Now you must have very good understanding about what are the different types of software, what are the different tasks in software development, what are the different approach in software development, right? So then what is structured and object-oriented in developing non-AI software? We can use structured or object-oriented in UI development, business logic. Even we can apply concept in the database part. Right now, if you decide to go for object-oriented software development or part of that, remember software can be both AI and non-AI also, right? Maybe the non-AI part we are going to develop using object-oriented as much as possible. Maybe UI, business rules. Okay. So what are the basic concepts? What is the thinking? What is the thinking of as a software developer? What is your thinking when you do structured development? What is the thinking when we do object-oriented? Because this is the basics. So once, if you don't understand this, no point learning class diagrams, sequence diagrams. Right? So no point filling water, right? If there's a hole here, whatever we fill, it will go down. So therefore, no point learning that diagram, this diagram, and all the things if you don't know what is a class is, what is object is, okay? What is object-oriented programming is, Okay. Right. Now we know that we have two approaches, structured and object-oriented. So what are the difference in thinking? What are the difference in thinking? How do
In
you
control structure, data,
in structured
in
programming, how do
control
you think?
structure,
Yes.
I didn't get it, sir.
In-
In control structure, data and functions are separated, but in OOP, data and functions are together.
Together, yes, that is correct. So in structured approach, our thinking is we have data and we want to process it so that we get the result, expected result, or we call it information. So we separate the data and process. So we represent our data using variables, simple variables, arrays, collections, and so on. So then we process it so until we get the expected result. Okay, so that is called structured programming. And if your approach is like that, then your analysis also structured, design also structured, development is also structured. That is called structured software development. Okay. So remember, you have our next subject we are going to start is data structures and algorithms. So basically, data structures are used to represent data. Data structures. ඊළඟ subject එකේ නම algorithms, processing. But we separate it. Data structures, algorithm. So we represent data using variables, arrays, and so on. Then we process it. How do you process? By applying operations using control structures, arithmetic, logic, comparison. We can use conditions, if, switch, repetition, while, for, transfer, break, continue, and then we get the result. Maybe your data, marks, you get the set score. Individual item names and quantity, bill, individual transactions, profit, final assets, profit and loss statement. Okay. Balance sheet. We can do it. We can develop that software, accounting software using structured manner. We can develop that billing system using structured manner. We can develop that UI using structured manner. We can develop that business flow using structured manner. Okay. Right. So then what about the thinking behind object oriented? Because මේක දැනගන්න නැතුව මේක වැඩි පටන් ගන්න බෑ. Right. What is the thinking or idea behind object oriented software development? Now we have discussed structured approach. We represent data and we process until we get the results or the information. What is the thinking behind object-oriented development? Anyone? Because we have done object-oriented programming in semester 1. This is just revision.
Attributes and behaviors are represented as an object.
Okay, then. So remember, think about the software. So what is the purpose of a software? Purpose of a software is solving a problem, get something done, doing processing. So therefore, your answer must connect to that. Because we are not doing something for the sake of doing, we are doing things to achieve something, right? So my structured programming definition or your structured programming definition connect to the purpose of software, right? Ultimately, you get the results, information. So right now you need to explain what is object-oriented programming and how do you achieve that results. Then only your answer is complete. So what is the overall approach in object-oriented development as a software development?
Objects are communicate with each and other to achieve a same goal.
Yeah, same goal or achieve the goals. So when we are developing a system, we have objectives, right? Maybe we want to get the final accounts, balance sheet. We must be able to get the bill prepared, right? We must be able to generate these reports. So those are the objectives of different software. So then how are we going to achieve that objective in object-oriented software development? We model the system as set of objects. So we look at the system as set of objects. And these objects can communicate and collaborate depending on their requirements. Right? So these objects can communicate and collaborate. Why? Because we have objective. So in order to achieve the objective, these objects will communicate and collaborate. Thereby, it fulfill our requirement. So after that, it has manage our accounts. We can generate the reports. We can get the bill. As a result of, so when I generate the bill, basically in the system, set of objects are created. These objects communicate and call the other objects methods. And finally, I got the bill in the screen, or then I can print it, or I get the final accounts. So this is the thinking behind object-oriented programming. So this is how you look at it. So you can see all of a sudden, this is not as simple as the previously. So that is why object-oriented programming is not taught in A level in schools. This is usually taught in university level because this is not as simple as previous. This is a little bit more complex, complicated approach. Of course, for complex problems, we need complex solutions sometimes, right? Whether we like it or not. ගෙදර ඉඳලා හන්දියට යන්න පුළුවන් පුෂ් බයිසිකලේ නමුත් හඳට යන්න බෑනේ පුෂ් බයිසිකලේ ඒක රොකට් එකක් හදන්න rocket is complex but what to do, otherwise we can't achieve our objective. බයිසිකලෙන් යන්න පුළුවන් නම් මරු අහස් කූරක් වගේ නැත්තම් එහෙම යන්න බෑ. So therefore the technology is more complex. So that is how we develop software in object oriented manner. Okay. Serious systems, accounting systems, inventory management systems. Of course, if you want, you can develop using structured programming also, but long term, when you have more and more features, you will see the advantage. Initially, you will find that object-oriented programming is bullshit. It's a headache, unnecessarily complicated approach. So when are you going to see the real benefits? When you really develop a complicated software. So in your BIT, these classes, we are not going to develop complicated system, right? So therefore, you won't see the real use of real benefit of object-oriented programming during your studies. You are going to see it when you go to the industry, you start working on real world projects. So then you need to believe in us. So we have been in the industry and we know without that it's very difficult to survive. So therefore, when we develop complicated systems, your real benefit comes. But for simple systems, the overhead is high. Overhead is high. When you learn also, you will feel like we are doing so many unnecessary things, but they are not unnecessary things. Okay. Right. So therefore, how do we look at object-oriented programming? We have a set of objects. These objects communicate and collaborate so that we achieve the objectives. Okay. Right. That is why we call it object-oriented programming. Right. So then what is mean by an object? What is mean by an object? Anyone? Because you have done object-oriented programming in semester 1, that is why I'm asking, right? I'm not a crazy person to ask things that you are not supposed to know, right? What is mean by object? I'm not expecting perfect answers. In object in
Object
subject,
contain data and attributes.
data and attributes.
Sorry, data and behavior.
Data and behaviors. But that is when you look at it from other side, right? So it's like rather than you think this way, you think that other way. Think forward, man. What is an object? Think about the system. Think about the system. So you now this is another problem you are having. So after learning things, you learn like this. Now you know all these things. Now you when we think, sometimes you think backward. Think backward rather than forward. Because you know all the things. Now either you can think forward or backward. Sometimes rather than you think this way, you think that way. You somehow you try to create a connection. Yeah. So object is, remember we are developing a system. So don't forget about that. Don't forget about that we are doing software development, right? Sometimes you forget about that. So we are developing a system, right? That is why we are doing object-oriented programming. Programs are to develop software. So in that system, remember we look at things as set of objects. So therefore, object is anything that is significant or important in our system. Anything that is important for our system or important concept, important thing is an object. For example, if you are developing an order processing system, so what are the interested things that we are interested? Obviously, order. Order processing system, we are interested in order. So order is object. Customer, make orders. Customer is object. Maybe payments. Payments are objects. Maybe when we order items. Items are objects. Okay. So this is the same thing we discuss in database as entities. Only thing is when we say entity, we only look at the attributes. But when we say object, we look at attributes and behaviors. Now connect database subject with programming subject. Right? Connect database subject, programming subject, object-oriented system analysis and design subject, software engineering subject. You learn separately, but when you use, right, you use it as a whole. You use it as a whole. So therefore, object is anything that we are interested related to our system. And that's anything can be living physical things, maybe customer, student, non-living physical things like a vehicle, item, or conceptual thing like order, payment. අපි මේකම තමයි database subject එකේ පළවෙනි දවසේ කතා කරේ. Entities කියලා. Okay. Information system subject එකේ පළවෙනි දවසේ කතා කරා what is a system නේද? What is information? What is data? Okay. So information is attribute of entity කියලා පටන් ගත්තා. So then what is entity කියලා කතා කරද්ද? ඒ entity කියන එකට අද object කියන්නේ. මේ හැමදාම කතා කරන්නේ එකම දේ හරි ඒක හරියට තේරුම් ගන්න කෙනාට මේක හරි ලේසි. එයාට එන්න රිලැක්ස් වෙනවා. එයාට පේනවා හැමදාම අද අලුත් දෙයක් නැහැ ඉගෙන ගත්තේ. ඔව් අද අලුත් දෙයක් ඉගෙන ගන්න නැහැ. පරණ දේවල් ටික පොඩ්ඩක් තව ටිකක් එකතු කරගත්තා. big picture දිහා බැලුවා. හැබැයි බොරු කරපු කට්ටියද එන්න මේක අවුල් ජාලාසයක්. බලන්න පළවෙනි දවසේ නේද what is data what is information කියන BIT degree පටන් ගත්තේ නේද? අදත් කතා කරන්නේ ඒකම තමයි. Right, so object is anything that we are interested related to our system. If it is a student management system, student, course, teacher, payments, that is what object is. Because if you don't identify objects, how do you draw a class diagram? How do you do a sequence diagram? This is the starting point. මේක හරියට අල්ලගන්න නැතුව මෙතනින් එහාට මුකුත් කරන්න බෑ. Right, so that is called object. So when it comes to objects, we are interested in two things about the objects. What are those? Attributes and behaviors. Okay, attributes and behaviors. We are interested in attributes of objects like, say, student, student ID, student name, contact number. Say account, account number, balance, interest rate, say bank account. So then we are interested in behaviors. Can someone tell me what is mean by behavior of object? දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ කියනවා. මොකද ඔයගොල්ලෝ object oriented කරලා ඉවරයි නේද? semester one. ඔයගොල්ලෝ එදා කල්පනා කරන්න තියෙනවා මේක. What is an object? What is an attribute? Attribute is a property of an object, like name of a student, price of an item, balance of an account, right? What is mean by behavior of object? Another name for behavior is what? Can someone tell me another name for behavior?
Function.
Sorry?
Function.
Yeah, function. There's another one. Behavior, function, service. So this is the one that I really like. Service. So can someone tell me what is mean by behavior or function or service of object? Now you know what is object is. Object is anything that we are interested in that domain related to the system. So then attribute is a property of that object that we are interested. Say order, order date, order amount, item, item ID, item name, unit price. So likewise, now tell me what is the behavior. If you have proper answers to these things, you know the subject. If you don't have proper answers and if you can't connect these things, you don't know the subject. Simple as that. Those who know the subject, those who have the attitude, they are going to use it. They are going to develop things. Others, බොරු කරනවා, රඟපානවා, දුක් විඳිනවා, විඳවනවා. එච්චරයි. ජීවිතේත් විඳවනවා, ජීවිතේ රඟපානවා, ගෙදර ඉඳලා රඟපානවා. ජීවත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So behavior is, that is why I told you service is the better word. So behavior is something that object can do, right? Something that the object can do, or some service that object can give to others, other objects. Right? And hardest thing for someone who is new to object-oriented programming is they can easily understand attributes. They can easily understand attributes, but they will find it very difficult to understand what is behaviors. So that is why you need to look at it as services. So there are two confusions you face naturally. When you are given an object, finding what are the behaviors. Sometimes what you think as behaviors are not behaviors of that object. Sometimes what you think as not a behavior is a behavior of that object. The second confusion is sometimes you think that it is a behavior of A object, but actually it's a behavior of B object. You feel like it's a behavior of A object, but actually it's a behavior of B object. So those two confusions you will face and you need to overcome it with experience, with logical thinking, critical thinking. Okay. For example, can you tell me a behavior of a vehicle? Think of this as a computer game or something. Behavior of a vehicle. මොකද behaviors එක කියන්නේ නැතුව කොහොමද class diagram එක හදින්නේ? software එක develop කරන්න පටන් ගන්න.
Starting,
Start,
accelerating,
accelerate, stop,
turning.
turn. So those are behaviors of vehicle. So those are all behaviors of vehicle. So those are the services that vehicle provide. නේද? ඔයා බලනවනේ මේක brake පැඩද accelerate කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? Can I accelerate this vehicle? Can I turn this? Because we check that, otherwise we can't use this vehicle. So those are the behaviors. Attributes are maybe the vehicle type, vehicle brand, mileage, registration number. Those are the attributes. speed limits, maybe the engine capacity. Those are the attributes. Behaviors are start, stop, accelerate, decelerate, turn, maybe switch on the wiper, horn, behaviors. Okay. So then driver can call those behaviors. Driver can call those. Actually, driver also has a behavior called drive. And එයාට තියෙනවා drive කියලා behavior එකක්. So when they show the drive behavior, first it asks vehicle to show the start behavior. ඔන්න start කරනවා. හැබැයි ඒක කරන්නේ කවුද? Vehicle එක. Driver's drive behavior involve start calling the start behavior of the vehicle. So then maybe this guy call the accelerate behavior, maybe turn behavior, sometimes horn behavior. Then after sometimes maybe decelerate and stop behavior. So those are behaviors of the vehicle. දැන් ඔයාලට පේන ඇති මෙයා මොකද කරන්නේ මෙයාට සැරින් සැරේ එක එක ඒවා කියනවා මැසේජ් යවන මෙහෙම කරන්න මේ ඔක්කොම මෙයාගේ behaviors. So this is how you learn object oriented programming. And this is how you learn object oriented programming in the proper way, because object oriented programming is all about objects passing messages. Okay. So then this task is done. You go from X to Y. X to Y. So it's very important that you identify what are the services a particular object can provide. It is easy for physical objects, living or non-living, but things are getting more interesting, challenging when it comes to conceptual objects. Conceptual objects. Right? Let's take a conceptual objects. Okay, let's take a living object, human object. Okay, human object. Forget about the physical, conceptual objects. Say we have an employee. Can you tell me behaviors of the employee related to employee management system? Employee management system involved employee can apply for, employees are recruited, employees can apply for leaves, employees come to the work, leave, do OT. Okay. So related to our system is interested in tracking leaves, employees coming to the work, going out of, leaving work, maybe their salary. Those are things that we are going to track, manage in our system. Now, one of the object is employee. Now, of course, I can give you the attributes, right? Employee ID, employee name, gender, salary, post. You need to tell me a few behaviors that our system is interested. These are employee management, HR management system. Right? Tell me. Now, වැඩි තේරෙලා නම් තියෙන දැන් කියන්න. Behaviors of the employee object. Or else you are not very sure about still what is object, what is attribute. So how do you create your class diagram then? How do you start building your software then? Because in employee management system, definitely employee class is there. ChatGPT ගහන employee management system එකේ තියෙන පුළුවන් classes මොනවද කියලා. එයාගේ
Employee working hours.
Working hours is it a behavior? What is mean by behavior? Behavior. You eat, it's a behavior, right? You sing, it's a behavior. Is it your age behavior? Your sleeping hours behavior? Sleeping hours means how many hours you sleep, how many hours you sleep, right? How many hours you work is it a behavior? Behavior is a dynamic thing, right? Right, maybe doing the work. Okay. That is the main behavior, right? We expect that you come and work. That is why you are hired. Right. So that is a behavior. Right. What else? Related to our management, HR management system. Maybe this guy is talking to others, sleeping. Okay, you are not supposed to sleep in the work, right? Maybe, right? You go to the toilet. We don't care, right? We don't care. You have your lunch, but we are interested in some behaviors for our system. What are the behaviors our system is interested? We are developing a HR management system. දැන් මේක කවදා හරි තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ. මේක තේරුම් ගන්න නැතුව කොහොමද final year project එක පටන් ගන්න? I will show you final year project report. එදාට නැත්නම් බොරු කරන්න යනවා. එදාට බොරු කරන්න යනවා. ඔයා කැමතිද බොරුවෙන් ජීවත් වෙන්න? So this is one of the report published by the university, okay, not by us. This is a CAP service management system, like BIT-me. You need to develop something serious, right? ඔකට ඉතනත් මේ එකේ ඉඳලා 10ට print කරන software එකට degree project එක විදිහට ගන්න එක. You can see this is a class diagram. මෙතනත් vehicle තියෙනවා පේනවා. Engine number, reservation, package, customer, driver, fuel, payment. දැන් ඔයාලට මේක අඳින්න බෑනේ behavior සඳහන් නැතුව නේ. Let's take another one. This is a system for tea factory. Tea factory. Managing tea factories activities. Right. So you can see this is a ER diagram. This is a class diagram. දැන් මෙයාගේ attribute දාලා නැහැ මොකද මේක ලොකු class diagram එකක්. But he should know what are the attributes, what are the behaviors. Right? What are the behaviors of employee? What are the behaviors of a supplier? What are the behaviors of a payment, loan? Loan කියන class එකේ behaviors මොනවද කියලා ඔයා දැනගන්න බෑ නේද? දැන් ඔයා මේ code කරනවා නේ ඊට පස්සේ code උත් දාලා ඇති. මේ තියෙන functionalities ඊට පස්සේ ඉතින් code. So this is make new order. Controller class. මේ class එක අනිලිය තියෙන class එක කියන object oriented. Okay, object oriented තමයි class. Right. Anyone? තාමත් උත්තරයක් ආවේ නැහැ. Quality of the work is not a behavior, right? Behaviors කියන්නේ මොනවාද? Behaviors කියන්නේ නානවා, උඩ පයින්නවා, ඇවිදිනවා, hina වෙනවා. මොකක්ද behaviors කියන්නේ?
Coming on time.
Coming on time. Forget about the on time. Coming to the work is a behavior that we are interested. How do you know that we are interested in attend to work? Can you give me a hint that yes, our system is interested in this behavior? Use your common sense and tell what. Can you explain to someone else why or not why? Confirm that our system is or even our current system is interested in this behavior. So that is why when the employees attend to work, they are supposed to give the fingerprint. That is, we want to track that behavior. Yeah, you guys, yes, this guy attended to work at this particular time. When you leave the work also, we are interested in that behavior. That is why we ask them to again scan your fingerprint and go out. So we are interested in that behavior. Of course, our software is interested in that behavior. Definitely our employee class has work. No, we are not much interested in work behavior because this is something we don't track in the system, but definitely attend, leave. Now Can someone tell me some more behaviors of the employee class or employee object? Some more behaviors. Yes, ask for leave, apply leaves. How do you know that we are interested? That is why when you apply for leave, we ask you to fill a form and give it to the manager because we want to track your behavior. Right? Apply for leave. System එකම track කරනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ එක ඒවට form පුරවන්න ඕන. So likewise, you need to understand this. This is the reality. This is how the software is developed. Unless you understand this one day or the other, you can't start developing your software. You can't start developing your final year project. So this is the time for you to develop those competencies, clarify any doubts. Okay. Right. Now let's think about another object. Now this is living things. Earlier we discussed about physical thing like vehicle. But it must be related to the system, right? For example, remember I showed you that this particular system also factory management system. So they also have model vehicle, right? Why they are interested in vehicles? Why this particular guy who developed this system has model vehicle in the class diagram?
For transportation.
Yeah, maybe the factory has their own vehicles or they have hired vehicles. So that is important thing, right? You need to do the payment for the vehicles. There is that. Right? So where is the vehicle? මේක නෙමෙයි vehicles ඉන්නේ කොහෙද? අනිත් එකේ taxi management system එකේ නේද? මේක vehicles handle කරලා නැහැ ඒගොල්ලෝ. Right, not here. Okay. Not here. They have not handled the vehicle related things. Maybe that is outside the scope of this report, this particular project. Okay. But obviously cab management system, right? Definitely you need to have vehicle, right? But here are we interested in start, stop, turn, horn? ඒවා අපිට අදාළයිද? නෑ මේක computer game එක නෙමෙයි. So this is a different thing. Now what kind of behaviors you are supposed to model in this particular vehicle class? අන්න ඒක තමයි ඔයාගෙන් එන්න ඕන දේ. So this is what that comes from you guys. Okay. So this is a cab service. Cab service. So what can be the possible behaviors? Now forget about the vehicle. Let's think about a driver. What are the possible behaviors of a driver? Driver class or driver object. Driver object. මේක ඔයා හිතන්න නැතුව වඩ පුළුවන් ද ෆයිනල් එක ගියාට පස්සේ ක්ලාස් ඩයග්‍රෑම් එකක් අඳින්න? Right. Say cab service. So driver must be registered. Right. So drivers can, if it is something like a pick me, drivers can register themselves, or they can go to the pick me agent and register. So then only you are part of the system. So register. That is, and also you can at any time unregister. So unregister. Maybe again later you can register after some time. When a job back කරලා දැන් රට ගිහලා දැන් ආයෙ එනවා. Register, unregister. What else? What else? What are the other behaviors of a driver? Maybe driver can say that, okay, now I'm ready for the hires. උදේට එයා කියනවා හරි මම දැන් ready නැත්නම් කොහොමද දන්නේ pick me system එක කොහොමද දන්නේ ඔයාලට hires බාර දෙනවද කියලා. උදේ නැගිට්ටම. Right? So you need to track that. Now the driver is on duty or whatever the words we use. Right? So the driver, we need to say, okay, I'm now available. Then you can say, okay, now I'm off. Now I'm off. I'm done for the day, or I'm taking my lunch break. So then the system will not assign hires to you, this particular driver during that period. So likewise, you need to think practically. So remember, Pygmy system is developed in Sri Lanka. Actually, Pygmy system is even better than Uber in some features. It's our software engineers' work. 100% developed in Sri Lanka. Right. So anyway, driver is also physical thing, right? Living physical thing. So what about conceptual thing? Conceptual things like bank account, order, payment. Right? Say bank account. I will give you the attributes. Account number. දැන් මම මේ ක්ලාස් ඩයග්‍රෑම් කරන දවසට කරන්නේ නැහැ. හරි දැන් මම මේ ඔයාගේ ඊළඟට එන්න තියෙන ටොපික්ස් වලට අදාළ දේවල් කතා කරලා අද ඉවර කරනවා. බෑග්ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් එක හදනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මට තියෙන හයියෙන් ටට්ටට ගාලා ඉවර කරලා දාන්න. අද සෙෂන් එක තමයි වැදගත්ම සෙෂන් එක. හරි. balance, account type, interest rate. Now you need to tell me behaviors or services bank account object can provide to the banking system.
Deposit, withdrawal.
Yeah, see, we can. So the account has the behavior called deposit, and anyone can deposit, right? මගේ account එකට ඔයාලට deposit කරන්න පුළුවන්. Not only the account holder, right? For example, you deposit money to the Somerset College bank account. So deposit behavior is there so that others can call it. Withdraw. Maybe withdraw is you can't do from others' accounts, but withdraw you can do from your account. Then the bank will apply something like add interest once a month if it is a savings account. So those are the services or behaviors of account object. මේක ඔයා හිතන්න ඕන. That is called thinking in object-oriented way. It's a thinking. It's a thinking. So once you get that thinking, you start designing, developing systems. Right? It takes a bit of time. You can make mistakes. So that is why even the final year project, you have a supervisor. Supervisor කෙනෙක් දාලා දින ඔයාගේ අතින් වැරදි attributes, behaviors හිතෙනවා නම් ඒවා හදලා දෙන්න. Guide you. But if you are blank sheet, your supervisor can't help. මට මුකුත් ඔලුවට එන්නේ නැහැ. එතකොට ඉතින් supervisor කරන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. Supervisor පුළුවන් එහෙ මේ තියෙන පොඩි වැරද්දක් හදලා දෙන්න. Because you are supposed to learn these in semester 1, 2, 3, 4 and then you start project. If you say I have blank, I have no idea about how to start my class diagram, then of course you are in deep trouble. Okay, right. So likewise, you need to think. Say there's something called order class. then මේක මේ පුළුවන් තරම් වෙලා අරගෙන කරන්න. හරි වෙලා අරගෙන මම දන්නවා මේක තමයි ආගේ වැදගත්. මේක offset කියන්නේ ඔක්කොම offset. දැන් මම මේ වගේ වෙලා අරගන්නේ නැහැ web development කරද්දී. free and open source software development කරද්දී ඒව නිකන් ඒවා ඉතින් අර ඕන කෙනෙක්ට ටැක්ස් ටික මතක තියාගෙන කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒව ඇත්තට serious දේවල් නෙමෙයි. මේවා serious. Right. Say it's an order. Order. What are the behaviors? Say it's a shopping cart. Shopping cart. Right. So when someone log into the system, you can have a shopping cart so that you can do shopping. Say shopping cart is object. I will give you the attributes. Okay, shopping cart ID, shopping cart object created time, date time, මේ object එක කවද්ද create කරේ, right? Maybe shopping cart state, is it active, inactive? You need to tell me behaviors. දැන් පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේද? මේක පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේද? මේක තමයි මේ සබ්ජෙක්ට් එකේ අරමුණ. වෙන ඒවා නෙමෙයි. පින්තූර අඳවන එක නෙමෙයි. එක එක. Right. Calculate total. Okay. So we'll start something like shopping cart object you need to create, right? So that is creating a shopping cart object. So usually you are supposed to have only one shopping cart for one session, right? So once you create it, of course, let's say create is normal thing, that creating object, constructor, that is not a behavior, right? So then you can do add items. Right? You can add the items to the shopping cart, right? ඊළඟ පාර shopping cart එක පාවිච්චි කරලා කල්පනා කරන object oriented විදිහට කොහොමද මේක develop කරන්නේ කියලා. Add the item. What else? What else? What about remove item? Remove item. Sometimes you feel like, no, I want to remove this item. Okay. So then calculate the total. අපි add කරාම බලන්න ඕනේ total එක කීයද කියලා ආයෙ recalculate කරන්න ඕනේ. මොකද පෙන්නන්න ඕනේ user එක. Calculate total, current total. Okay. Maybe you want to clear shopping cart. Clear. Shopping cart එකම clear කරලා දාන්න. එහෙම කරනවා නේද? ඒක shopping cart එකේ behavior එක. Customer කරයි හැබැයි ඒක. This shopping cart's behavior clear. Okay. Maybe then you check out on your payments or no. Check out. Just like, or maybe you can decide cancel. Clear money may cancel කරනවා shopping cart එක. Session again. Those are the possible behaviors. Right? So you need to think like that, take in different scenarios. You can think of scenarios and even start developing. So you don't need to wait until the final year for it. Small things, maybe just the UI part. Without UI, just the model part. Maybe just insert record to the database, retrieve, maybe then combine it with another table, write a small SQL with JDBC. Right. So now you must have idea about what is object, what are the attributes, what are the behaviors or services. Okay. So then what is mean by class? What is mean by class? Anyone? මොකද ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේක කරලා තියෙන නැත්නම් මම ඕගොල්ලෙන් අහන්නේ. මම ඕගොල්ලෙන් පට අහන්නේ data structures and algorithm කරන්න පටන් ගත්තා පස්සේ what is mean by tree? එතකොට මට පිස්සු තියෙනවනේ නේද? What is mean by linked list කියලා ඔයගොල්ලෙන් අහනවද මම නැහැ. මම පිස්සෙක් නෙමෙයිනේ. What is mean by class කියලා නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ semester 1 එක object oriented කරලා. ඒවා exam pass වෙලා ඉන්නේ දැන්. Exam pass උනේ.
Class is a set or factory of a similar object.
Set of similar object is not correct. Factory is okay. Right? So you can, right? Set of similar object is wrong. That is definitely wrong. Set of objects or similar object is wrong. Factory is correct. Because factory and set of objects are different things, right? So factory will on the fly produce. Set means you already have the products. Right? So factory is not already having the products. Factory on the fly develop, produce. So therefore I will accept this part, but I will say this is wrong. This is wrong. So class is not where you have set of objects so that when someone needs you can give it. Okay. So this part is correct. So there are two ways you can give an answer or the definition to class, that is one way. Class is a factory to create objects. But that is the second part of the definition. So the first part of the definition is class represents or model set of similar objects. Right? Model, not set of objects, model or represents. These are the words. Represent. So model a kind of objects. To represent all the payment objects, we have payment class. To represent all the customer object, we have the customer class. To represent all the vehicle objects, we have the vehicle class. To represent all the student objects, we have the student class. So therefore, what is the proper answer? A class model or represents a particular type of objects. So second part is, once you have a class, object-oriented programming languages facilitate us to create object from that class. For example, if you have a class called student, say S1 equal new student. So නම් ලියලත් පෙන්නනවා මේ. අන්න එහෙම තමයි ඉන්ටර්විව් එකට ගියාට පස්සේ ආ පෙන්නන්නේ මම වැඩි දන්නවා. So you, for the questions, you may have answers. So there are three type of people, right? When say you are going for interview. So some people, they don't have answer. When I ask what is a class, they don't have an answer. Some people, they have some sort of answer, but that is not very precise. Here and there, maybe 50-50. But some others, they have sort of a perfect answer. Perfect answer. So which one I am going to hire? If these guys are there, I will hire these guys. If these guys are not there, maybe I will consider, because we need someone. But most of the time we can find these kind of people. So they have the precise answers. So how can you give a precise answer? Because you have a deep understanding. There are two type of, these guys have not understood it. This guy has a little bit of understanding, but it's vague. But these guys have very deep understanding. These guys has thought about it in a serious manner. These guys have some coding. These guys have used those concepts in their projects, mini projects, examples, exercises. So therefore, these guys are more comfortable, more confidence. So this is how, this is the, it represent or model, so that later we can create objects like this. So then using that object can call other objects behaviors. We can set attributes of this object. We can call behaviors of this object. V means other objects, because software is set of objects communicating and collaborating. So that means you are very comfortable. You know A to Z what is software in object-oriented way. So try to get into that kind of a mindset. So then your life is very comfortable, right? You can go anywhere in the world and work. You can go to any interview. Of course, if you don't know some concept, you say, I don't know. Maybe out of 10 questions, you have answered 7 questions very comfortably. Maybe 3 of those, you have not learned about those things, because you can't learn everything. Maybe you are really good at programming, but you are not that much interested in some of the concepts, some advanced concepts in some other area, because you can't be a master of everything, right? Right. So now you know what is a class is. Right? What is object? Anything that we are interested related to our domain. What are the things that you are interested about object? Attributes and behaviors or services. So then, what is meant by class? Class model or represents a particular type of objects. And later we can create objects out of that class at runtime. Order objects are represented by order class. Payment objects are represented by payment class. Customer objects are represented by customer class. right? Right. දැන් අපි මොනවද කතා කරලා තියෙන්නේ? Object, attribute, behavior or service, class. දැන් මේක ඉවර වෙන්න ඕන ටිකක්. ඊට පස්සේ කියනවා දැන් අපි ඉවරයි කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ කවුරු හරි આવොත් එimhe object oriented ගැන කතා කරමු කියලා ඕනේ නැහැ කියලා. මම දන්නවා. හැමදාම එකම මගුල කතා කරන්න බෑ. හැබැයි ඒක ඔප්පු කරන්න ඕන අහනේවල උත්තර දීලා. එලකිරිවල. එතකොට ආයෙ වගේ අහන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. අපට object oriented උගන්වන්න එන්නෙත් නැහැ කවුරු. එතකොට කියනවා ආයෙ නක් මොනවා හරි මම ඩිවෙලොප් කරන්න පටන් ගමු. හරි. ඔබට ආයෙ උගන්වන්න දෙයක් නැහැ දැන්. ඔබ දන්නවනේ. Right. So next thing. So now you know what is object, attribute, behavior or service, then class. So the next thing is what is mean by messaging? Because these are the basics. Basics කළා තමයි ඊළඟ level වලට යන්නේ. Basics කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ inheritance වලට polymorphism වලට. What is mean by messaging? Because remember, we look at the system as set of objects communicating and collaborating. Another name for communicating and collaborating is messaging. Messaging. This object message this object. So what is messaging? Anyone?
Calling a behaviors of another object.
Who is going to call behavior of another object? Now your subject is not there, right? Your sentence has no subject. Calling a behavior of another object. Who is going to call?
Associated object.
Yes. One object calling the behavior of another object. Who can call the behaviors of other objects? Another object. One object can call the behavior of another object. Most of the time. But there are situations you can directly call the behavior of object. Like your main method can directly call a behavior of object also. Without, that is your main entry point is calling. Okay. But most of the time, one object calling the behavior of another object. Okay. So that is called messaging. Okay. So why do we do messaging? Because different functionalities are in different classes. So therefore, when we do a particular transaction, so we need that collaboration so that the entire process is done. Okay. Say we are doing a money transfer in the bank. Say transaction object is there. Transaction object. You are doing a transaction. So as part of the money transfer, you need to call the first account object and call the withdraw behavior. How do you call it? Credit the debit the කියන්නේ අපි. Debit නේද? අඩු වෙනවට කියන්නේ debit වෙනවා කියන්නේ. Yes. Debit behavior of this account object. Amount is your amount that you have specified. Say 5,000. So now 5,000 is debited from this account. So then it must be credited to the other account. So two objects of the same class. Right? Account class, but this account number object. We do the debit, that is your account. From other account object to the other account object, we call credit behavior. Say 5,000 removed, 5,000 added. So two objects. So we are sending message to this account object and another message to the other account object. When this message is sent, right, money is deducted from your account. So then this object will send a message to notification object saying send an email, send a SMS. So when this transaction is happening, now this will send a SMS. So all of a sudden now your mobile phone you get SMS. That is sent by not your account object, notification object, because your account object send a message to the notification object saying this is the amount, this is the account number, this is the phone number, send a notification, SMS notification. So then this object is also calling the notification object, send a message, SMS. So then other guy get a SMS saying, okay, you got this amount of money credited to your account. So two SMSs are generated. So these are message passing. Account object, notification object. Two account object, two notification objects. So So then this notification object is garbage collected. After this transaction is over, these objects are garbage collected, and before that, this account object will save that change to the database table. Now your balance is reduced and transaction entry is added to the transaction table, right? So this object will make sure that its account balance is updated, transaction is added, right? Double entries. So that is database. So working with database is done by the classes. That is why we say model classes can work with database. But that class will work with that table. Account class will work with account table, right? Account class will not work with customer table. So you concentrate on your work. That is what object-oriented programming is. Okay. Is it clear now? මේක කවදා හරි තේරුම් ගන්න. මේ කවදා හරි තේරුම් නැගෙන වෙන මගුල් තේරුම් ගත්ත කියලා වැඩක් නැහැ. බොරු. ඒවට කියන්නේ software development නෙමෙයි. IT ගැන නිකන් IT මනෝ විකාර. උදේට ක්ලාස් එකට යනවා මනෝ විකාර කරලා හවසට ගෙදර එනවා. software development කරන්න බෑ. හරි වෙන විකාර ගන්න ඕල්වි. හැබැයි ඒකෙන් software develop වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So this is how the software is developed. This is how what happens inside the software, in the servers. කවදා හරි මේ ඇත්ත තේරුම් ගන්න. කවදා හරි. උදේට බොරුවට ඉස්කෝලේ යනවා. මම නම් එහෙමයි. ඉස්සර උදේට බොරුවට ඉස්කෝලේ යනවා. හවසට ඇත්තට ටියුෂන් යනවා. හරි. බොරුවට ඉස්කෝලේ යනවා උදේට හවසට ඇත්තට ටියුෂන් යනවා. ඉතින් උදේට ඉස්කෝලේ ගිහින් ඉගෙන ගත්තා නම් හවසට ටියුෂන් යන්නේ නැහැ. බොරුව. බොරුවයි ඇත්තයි. ඉතින් ටිකක් දවස් ගියාම ගෙදර අම්මට කැවිලා කියනවා මේ ඉස්කෝලේ යන්න නැතුව ඉන්නද? බෑ එහෙම කොහොමද ඉස්කෝලේ යන්න නැතුව ඉන්නේ? හරි. අහල පාරේ මිනිස්සු hina වෙයි. නෑ දොස් කියයි ඉස්කෝලේ යන මස් කරා කියලා. එහෙම ඉඳලා හිටලා යන්නත් බෑ. ඉඳලා හිටලා ගියාම ඉස්කෝලේ ටීචර් බයිනවා. උඹ මොකටද ඒ ඉඳලා හිටලා එන්නේ ගෙදරම නැවතියන් කියලා. එන්න ප්‍රශ්න ඉතින්. So therefore, do the right things. Do the right things. One day or the other, you do the right things. Okay. Right. So now you know what is messaging is. So messaging means one object calling behaviors of another object. That is called messaging. So what is the perfect, straightforward, correct answer? Messaging. Messaging means one object calling behaviors of behavior of another object. So then that object can do something, or that object can call behavior of another object. Like when we call the debit method, this guy called the notify method of this object. Maybe another object write a log entry to the log file. That is what තියෝකට තමයි පස්සේ sequence diagram හදන්නේ. නේද? තාගේ note එකේ තියෙනවා නේද? අද ක්ලාස් එකෙන් තමයි වැඩ ඉවර කරන්න ඇත්තටම. හරි අද ක්ලාස් එක තමයි වැදගත්. ඊට පස්සේ මම හයියෙන් මේවට ඉතුරු concepts ටික කරගෙන ගිහින් ඉවර කරලා දානවා. හරි. මේකෙන් message pass කරන විදිහ ඊට පස්සේ ඉගෙන ගන්න. මේකෙන් මෙයාට message එකක් යනවා, මෙයාගෙන් මෙයාට යනවා. So what is this? What is this? One object calling behavior of another object. දැන් මේක තේරුම් ගන්න බෑනේ මේ කතන්දරේ අද තේරුම් ගත්තේ නැති කෙනෙක්ට. මේක තේරුම් ගත්තා වගේ නිකන් රඟපාන්න පුළුවන්. අර උදේ ඉස්කෝලේ ගිහිල්ලා බොරුවට ගෙදර එනවා. ඕන රඟපාන්න පුළුවන්. රංගන ශිල්පියෙක් වෙන්න. But you need to understand this. You need to understand this. If you understand this, you can develop software. If not, you can write නේද කවි ලියන්න පුළුවන් software development ගැන බොරු කර කර ඉන්න පුළුවන්. Right. So now we have discussed one more concept, right? අපි ටික ටික ඉවර කරනවා. Object, attribute, behavior, class, messaging. So then there's a concept called association. Right? Association. What is mean by association? ගොඩක් අයගෙන් object oriented එකක මම කියන්නේ inheritance. හැබැයි අපි පටන් ගන්න association වලින්. වැඩිපුරම තියෙන්නේ මොනවාද? Association. වැඩිපුරම තියෙන දේවල් වලට තමයි සලකන්නේ. Right? Association. For example, when you take a class diagram, what do you see mostly? This is class diagram. මේක ඔක්කොම තියෙන association. So this is a aggregation. These are all association. This class diagram has only one inheritance. හැබැයි මිනිස්සුගෙන් ඇහුවම ස්ටුඩන්ට් ලාගෙන් ඇහුවම කටේ තියෙන මොකද inheritance? නරිවාදව. හැබැයි වැඩිපුර තියෙන්නේ මොනවාද class diagram එකේ? Association. These are all associations. So therefore you must know more about associations. Sometimes you don't use inheritance at all. Very rarely use inheritance. Especially in your domain level. Domain level, 80%, 90% is association. So this association relationship. What is mean by association? Anyone? ඒක නම් මම ඔයගෙන් අහන එක වැරදි ඉතින්.
Relationship.
Relationship is everything is relationship. Association relationship, composition relationship, aggregation relationship, inheritance relationship. Relationship is a general term. Okay. So this thing you have not learned much, but actually we discussed this in semester 1 also. Semester 1 class as additional thing I explained this because I know that this is very important in semester 2, 3, 4, 5 and final year project and everywhere. So association means, for example, we can say that there's association between account class and notification class. Maybe something, this direction is also there. Okay. So customer class and account class. Oh, this is both way. Both way means no direction. Okay. No direction. So association, if there's an association between account and notification class, then account object can call behavior of a notification object or message. So you can message only if the two classes are associated. If there's no association, say account class is there, there's another class here. Right? So there's another class, say report class. There's no association. So that means account class cannot call behaviors of report class. Simple as that. So there's nothing called any object can call behaviors of any other object. No. If there's association relationship between classes, then that object can call behaviors of the associated object. Is it clear? What is the literal meaning of association? Can you tell me what is the literal meaning of association? Literal meaning, English. Anyone? Association.
Dependency.
Operation.
Dependency.
Cooperation.
Yes, correct. Cooperation. So association means අපි සිංහලෙන් කියන්නේ ආශ්‍රයක්. Right? Cooperation. දව අල්ලපු ගෙදරත් එක්ක association එකක් තියෙනවා පුළුවන්. අපි වම් පැත්තේ ගෙදරත් එක්ක association එකක් තියෙනවා. හරි cooperation එකක් තියෙනවා. හරි ඒගොල්ලොත් එක්ක ඉඳලා කතා කරනවා, hina වෙනවා. හරි උදව්වක් ගන්නවා. හැබැයි මේ පැත්තේ ගෙදරත් එක්ක සමහරට association එකක් නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලොත් එක්ක වැඩි කතා බහක් නැහැ. කිසිම කතා බහක් නැහැ. ඒතකොට ඒගොල්ලොත් එක්ක ඕගොල්ලෝගේ තියෙනවද මේ සහයෝගයක්? නැහැ. ඒතකොට ඕගොල්ලෝ මොන හරි ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ උදව්වක් කියලා ගන්නවද? නැහැ. Because you don't have association with them. But maybe you have association with the left side neighbor. ඒකට association එක නැති යත් එක්ක ගිහලා එකපාරට කියලා මොනාර කියන්න බලන්න මොකක් හරි වුණා උමනාවක් වුණා. එහෙම කියන්න බෑ. මොකද ඒගොල්ලොත් එක්ක association එකක් නැහැ නේ කාලයක් තිස්සේ. So therefore, if a particular object need to get the call the behavior of another object or get the service, so you must make sure that there's association between those two classes. That is what you are supposed to do in designing. Identify those possibilities and create these association relationships in designing, so that in development, this object can call behaviors of this object. Object can't automatically call behaviors of another object unless there's association relationship between in the class level, because you develop the classes first. Is it clear? Is it clear? So an object can call behaviors of another object if there's an association relationship between the two corresponding classes.
Is that mean cooperation and associations are same thing?
Yes, same thing. Same thing. Cooperation and communication. So in order to cooperate, you need communicate also, right? So communicate means you call. Cooperation means when you call, it does something. That is the cooperation it gives to you, or service. Right? So the service is given only when you call it. So calling is called communication. So cooperation is doing that act when you call it. Okay. So therefore, don't think that any object can randomly call behaviors of another object. No. Only if there's an association between the two classes, then you can call it. And the other thing is association has a direction. Sometimes association is like this. So that means object of account class can call behaviors of notification class. But object of notification class cannot call behaviors of account class. So that is unidirectional association. Unidirectional association. Okay. So can we have that kind of association in real world? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So there are some neighbors. This neighbor gets some help from these neighbors. Right? Of course, they will do it. එහෙම කිව්වම ඒගොල්ලෝ කළා දෙනවා. කතා කරොත් කතා වෙනවා, hina වුණොත් hina වෙනවා. කිව්වොත් මොන හරි කළා දෙනවා. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලෝ මේගොල්ලොත් එක්ක කතා කරන්න යන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ උදව් ගන්න යන්නෙත් නැහැ. So they don't. Actually, it's a unidirectional association. Right? මේගොල්ලොත් එක්ක association එකක් තියෙනවා. මේගොල්ලොත් එක්ක association එකක් නැහැ. හැබැයි කියන දේ කළා දෙනවා. So that is called unidirectional association. Okay, unidirectional association. It's like a boss and subordinate. Boss can ask the subordinate to do certain things, and subordinate will do it. But subordinate is not supposed to ask boss to do this and that. ඒ boss ලා ඉන්නව නේද? boss කියනවා මෙයාට හැබැයි මෙයාට ගිහිල්ලා boss එක්ක කතා කරන්න බෑ. එහෙම there are some environment like that. Right? There are some environments like that. It's bossy, hierarchical. So those are unidirectional. Sometimes we need that kind of unidirectional association. Otherwise, it will create some unnecessary situations. Right? For example, notification is not supposed to call behaviors of account, but account is supposed to get the help of notification. So think practically. And if you have any doubts, you can ask. And also you need to think more and more practical examples. Because whenever you draw class diagram, every line you draw, right? You think and draw. You don't just randomly draw. This is not painting. You don't draw a line without reason. If there's no need for association, don't draw it. Right? Then think about direction. If unidirection is good enough, don't make it bidirection. And also you need to think about one-to-one, one-to-many. Right? For example, customer can have multiple accounts, but account belongs to one customer. So when it comes to association, you need to think about two things now. What are those two things? One-to-one association one-to-many association, many-to-many association, that is multiplicity. That is why in databases also we have one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, many-to-many, because ultimately your data must be saved in a database. Now you can see that programming and database has a connection. Right? Programming and database has a connection. So you can't think about databases and develop program. Programmers must know about how the database works. Of course, these days all the things are done by the same set of people. Right? One person think about the program, database, or as a team. Now you can't say that I am only doing Java programming. Don't ask me about database design. No, you can't do like that. So these days, what happens is when you are having a functionality use case, you think about the UI, development, related tables, or everything. But yes, at the upfront, the senior architects, senior developers will create the rough structure of the database because that is the starting point. But you should be able to ask them to add another relationship, refine this, add a field because you have a requirement. Or you do it by yourself. Right. Right. Now you must have a very good understanding about the basics of object orientation. What are the basics of object orientation? Object, right? Object, attribute, behavior or service, class, messaging, association. So if there's association only, object can message the other object. Object can call the behavior of another object. And when it comes to association, you must aware of the two concepts. What are those two concepts? Direction, multiplicity. Right? Unidirection, bidirection. One to one, one to many, many to many. Is it clear? So then you put it into coding. Put it into coding. So what we discussed today are the hardest things. So the easiest thing is learn about inheritance. ඕන කෙනෙක් දන්න inheritance ගැන. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලන්ට association දන්නේ නැති යන මෙලෝ මඟුලක් කරගන්න බෑ. Inheritance දැනන් හිටිය කියලා කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් නැත. Software develop කරන්නේ association පාවිච්චි කරලා. Message passing පාවිච්චි කරලා. Inheritance තියෙන නිකන් nice to have feature එක. Okay. Association නොදන්න කෙනෙක්ට inheritance දැනගෙන වැඩක් නැහැ. Association දන්න කෙනෙක් inheritance වලින් වැඩ ගන්නවා. Polymorphism වලින් වැඩ ගන්නවා. Okay. So I'm willing to spend any amount of time for these concepts. Okay, any amount of time for these concepts. Because this is the most important thing. Okay. Right. So we'll take a small break. After the break, we will further expand this discussion to the coding level. මොකද කතන්දර කතා කරලා වැඩක් නැහැ අන්තිම කෝඩ් එක ලියන්න එපා. හරි කතන්දරකාරයෝ ඕන කරන් ඉන්න කෝඩ් ලියන කට්ටිය තමයි නැත්තේ. Right. So we'll start at 11:30. ඊළඟ සතියේ වල තියෙන පොඩි ඩයග්‍රෑම් ටිකක් අඳින්න ආයෙ වලේසියා. ක්ලාස් ඩයග්‍රෑම්, සීක්වන්ස් ඩයග්‍රෑම්. ඒව ඕන කෙනෙක්ට අඳින්න පුළුවන් මේක දන්නවනම්. We start at 11:30. Okay, we start at 11:35, okay? Okay, so let's continue. Right, so now we'll take this into practice coding because ultimately what matters is software. Okay. No, there are no practical things for any assignments, nothing for level 2. Only level 3, you have the final year project, practical thing. Okay. But it doesn't mean that you don't take it seriously. So you must be aware of the importance of doing practical things. Okay. Not because anyone evaluate you, but because you know that this is a practical subject. Okay. So that is why I'm always talking about practical things. And maybe you can develop a small system, start developing a system as a mini project, as before starting your real final year project. So you can show it to me, right? So that is fine. I'm always here to help you, right? I'm always here to help those who genuine people, not for fake people, right? If you genuinely want to learn something, I'm always here to help you guys, okay? But I'm not here to help act like fake people, okay? Fake people to their fake things, okay? Right. So now we have a class because ultimately objects are created using class and class can have attributes and behaviors. So how do you code it? Right. So you can write class, say account, something like this, or class, say employee, like this. So then what can you include it in the class? Remember, at analysis and design level, we have attributes and behaviors. Right? Attributes, behaviors. Another name for behavior is service. Right? What happens to your attributes? Because then you must be able to convert design into the code. Can someone tell me what happened to your attributes? What happened to your attributes? Because I am asking this because you have done this in your semester 1. At code level, how do you code attributes?
Using variables.
When we say variables, there are different variables in a class. So therefore, I need a specific answer because there are different type of How many type of variables you can find in a class? How many type of variables? Anyone? Right. So that answer at least gives us an opportunity to discuss this. What are the different type of variables? How many type of variables you can find in a class? I'm not talking about the private public. That is visibility. That is different concept. What are the different type of variables? How many type? So if you have done your semester 1 programming subject in a serious manner, now you must know that I have seen this type of variables, that type of variables.
Class variable, instant variable.
Class variables, yes. Another name for class variable is static variable. Another
Instant
one,
variable
yes,
for objects.
instance variables. Okay. What is the third one? What is the third one? If you can tell me the third one, it's a bonus. I'm happy to hear these two. That means I'm happy. But if you can tell me the third one, I will take it as a bonus. Because there are some variables, those are neither class variables nor instance variables.
Inherited variables.
Not inherited variables. Those are also instance variables. Right? We call them local variables. So if someone asks what are the 3 type of variables, you must, right, look at his or her eyes and answer class variables, instance variables, local variables. So you are going to get that job. You don't go to interviews to, right, waste your time, right? You go there to get the job. Then you decide whether you go to the job or not. Accept the appointment or not. That should be the case. Class variables, instance variable, local variables. Local variables are variables you declared inside methods. Right. So your attribute will become either class variable or instance variable. Your attribute is not going to become a local variable. Local variables are just for local things. temporary things. So attribute will be either instance variable or class variable. So next thing is, how do you decide whether your attribute is, are you going to select as a class variable or are you going to select as a instance variable? Because those decisions you need to take, right? And doctor කෙනෙක්ට නම් decide කරන්න බෑ x කියන බෙහෙත දෙනවද y කියන බෙහෙත දෙනවද කියලා ඔයාලට නිකන් හිතන එකක් දෙන්න බෑනේ. ඒතකොට ලෙඩ අමාරුයි. So doctor must have solid logic saying, because of this I have prescribed this particular drug and this particular amount. So after considering all your symptoms, age, other things, allergies, so that is the seriousness, right? How do you decide whether it's class variable or instance variable? Because when you're doing your final year project, you can't toss a coin and decide that is instance variable, that is class variable, right? It is not going to work, right? ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි ටිකක් දවස් ගියාට පස්සේ software එක develop කරන එක නවත්තලා නේ එක එක්කෙනාගේ පස්සේ යන්නේ. project එක කරන එක නවත්තලා එක එක්කෙනාගේ පස්සේ යන්නේ.
If an attribute common to all instances, it will be class variable.
Yes, if that attribute is common to all the value is common to all the instances, it will be a class or static variable. But if every object is supposed to have its own value, that is an instance variable. That is why we call it instance variable. For example, balance is an instance variable, say float, because your account balance is not my account balance. If I have 3 accounts, those 3 accounts have 3 different balances. Okay, so that is a instance variable, right? Say string account number. My account number is not your account number. So those are instance variables. But if it is common to all the objects of that class, it will be a class variable or static variable. For example, interest rate, say float, interest rate, because interest rate is common to all the accounts of this type. Say I have a savings account, you have a savings account in the same bank. Both of us are going to get the same interest rate. So that is not instance variable, that is a static variable. Static float interest rate. Okay. If it is a common thing, or if everyone object of that class refer to the same value, that is a class variable or static variable. Simple as that. Most of the time you will find instance variables, but time to time there will be class variables. So you need to take those decisions. So developing a software is taking those decisions, correct decisions. When you can't take those decisions, you can't develop the software. Simple as that. You can't take those decisions, you haven't understood the concepts. So then you are stuck. That's the end of your software development. So your task is fill those gaps, build those bridges, get the confidence so that you can handle the big picture. Right? All of a sudden, when you're in the final year project, huge responsibility on you. Understand the requirement, design the UI, develop the functionalities, design the database, test it, manage your project within your time frame, prepare the reports. So you are assigned a responsibility and they check whether can you handle it. And you need to get help from others. Get help is not getting the software developed by others. Get help from means when you are stuck, you ask someone to help and find the bug. When you don't know when you're not very sure about how to handle a particular scenario, get help. Maybe from ChatGPT, maybe from your supervisor, maybe from someone your friends. in the IT field. Right. Instance variables, class variables. Okay. So then your behaviors, it will be either instance method or class method. There's nothing called local method, right? Instance method, class method. So which behaviors will be instance method, which behaviors will be class method? Because you need to take those editions එක තමයි ගන්න software develop කරන්නේ. ඒවා වෙන editions ගන්න නැහැ. උදේට කන්නේ මොනවද? නේද? රාහු කාලය කීයද තියෙන එක පන්නලාද software develop කරන්න. ඒවයින් නෙමෙයි software develop කරන්නේ. මේ editions ටික ගන්න පුළුවන් අය software develop කරනවා. Right. Can someone tell me how do you decide whether a particular method behavior, say deposit, withdraw, add interest, check in, check out, add to cart, remove from cart. How do you decide whether these methods, individual methods, whether it's an instance method or class method? So you must have a solid answer now. Anyone?
If a behavior is common to all instance, it will be go under class.
What is mean by behavior is common? For example, deposit. Is it common, right? How we do the deposit to one account is the same with how do you do the deposit to another account of the same account? Is it a class behavior? So you need to talk to someone who can challenge you. Then you can get the best out of it. That is why you need to start talking. It's not because that guy is against you. That guy is trying to get the maximum from you. How do you decide whether a method is instance method or class method? If that behavior or method refer to instance variables, read or write, that behavior is an instance method. Simple as that. If that behavior does not refer to instance variables, that is a candidate for class or static behavior, static method. Okay? Simple as that. For example, deposit behavior. Okay. So let's start doing some coding now. Say IntelliJ. I will be using IntelliJ, okay? You can use whatever the ID you are familiar with. But don't use Notepad and command line in semester 3, okay? Global variables and local variables are concepts for the structured programming. So therefore, we are not going to talk about global and local variables because we are now talking about object-oriented programming. So therefore, don't think about global, local when we think about object-oriented programming. Because then you try to mix structured programming and object-oriented. Don't mix these concepts, okay? So that is the answer for that. I'll be creating a class called account. We did the same thing in semester 1, okay? We created the account class, but now try to be very serious, more serious. Okay. එදා account class එකනකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ UI development කරලා තිබුණේ නැහැ, thread programming කරලා තිබුණේ නැහැ නේද? දැන් ඒවා කරලා you are more matured. Right, so I will make my instance variables, say balance, float, balance. So then string account number. Okay, let's put string account number as the first one. AC say num. Why? Every object has its own account number. Every account object has its own balance instance. But I will mark interest rate as static variable because all the account objects of this type is going to get the same interest rate. Say static float interest rate. If you want, you can assign a value also, or you can assign it in using setters and getters, because hard coding interest rate is very bad thing. Do you think that the bank is going to use the same interest rate? When the interest rate is changed, then you need to come and change your software. Think about that level also. Right now I have two instance variables and one class variable. And one class or static variable. So now I am going to have some instance methods. Like deposit, void, say deposit. Say you need to give the amount, right? How much to deposit? Say float amount. Now what is the behavior? What is the functionality? So when someone deposit money, his balance must be incremented by this amount. So balance, either balance equal balance plus amount or balance plus equal amount. Now clearly you can see that you are referring to a balance. Balance is instance variable. If your method refer to instance variable, it can't be class method, or you can't mark this as a static. If you mark it as a static, you get error. You can see that non-static field balance cannot be referenced from static, because if it is a class method, you cannot refer to instance variables, read or write. If you are referring to instance variables, it must be a normal instance method. So same thing. Now everything you have a logic, right? So then withdraw. So then subtract from that amount. Again, instance method. Right now I have instance variables, instance class variable, and two instance method. So I'm going to add a class method also. Class or static method. Say I want to change the interest rate. That is definitely, I don't need to refer to account number or balance then. Says void set interest rate. Say float rate. Now I can refer to this interest rate and set it. Interest rate equal rate. And interest rate is a static variable. So this method is not referring to any of the instance variable. So remember, class method doesn't mean that you are referring to class variables. You are not referring to instance variable. That means optionally you can refer to class variable. Optionally. We don't care. But you must not refer to instance variable. So some students think that class methods are methods that refer to class variables. No. Class methods are methods that do not refer to instance variables. It may refer to class variables. That is optional. So therefore, this is not referring to any instance variable. Therefore, I can mark it as static or class method. No error message. No error message. So it's a class method. But here I can't mark it as static. Right? Can see? So do you have any question? මේක ඔයා කවදා හරි තේරුම් ගන්න. මේ කවදා හරි තේරුම් ගන්න නැතුව ඔයාලට ඔබ්ජෙක්ට් ඔරියන්ටඩ් ගැන කතා කරන්න බෑ. මොකද මෙතඩ් එක තීරණය කරන්නේ රාහු කාලේ බලලා නෙමෙයි ලොජික් වලින්. ස්ටැටික්ද නොන් ස්ටැටික්ද කියලා. So now we have two instance variable, class variable, two instance methods, and a class method. So then you must ask, if I don't mark it as in class method or static method, is it okay? What is wrong? What is bad? So that is what critical thinkers do. Critical thinkers always question very questions, critical questions. Okay. Does anyone has answer for that? If I do not mark this as a static method, do I get any disadvantage?
No one knows it was a class method. We don't mark it.
So what is bad about no one knowing that? Because still they can call this, right? If they can still call it, and if the work is done. Okay. For example, say you know how to develop software, right? So no one knows that you have a BIT degree. But as long as if you can develop the software, so I don't care for my tasks. So the simple answer is, if it is a static method, you can call that method without object. But instance method, you always need object. So without object, if you can call, if it is a static method, that is why it's advantage. Because you don't need the instance, right? Because it's a common thing. So that is why I told you that when we say message passing, most of the time, message passing is between objects. One object calling the behavior of another object. But there are situations you can just call the message, call the behavior without object. What kind of behaviors you can call without object? Static behaviors. Just the class name and call it. So that is why when I am using the words, I am very careful, because I know that there are this possibility, that possibility. Just like a doctor prescribing a medicine, he is very conscious. What are the side effects, right? When he prescribed two medicines, sometimes when these two medicines are mixed together, what happens? Okay. So what do you think the most important subject for a doctor? What is the most important subject for a doctor? It is chemistry, right? Chemistry. Yes, biology is important, but sometimes it is more than biology, chemistry. I would say both 50-50. Right? So they don't need much about physics. Right? So they need to think about the consequences, because they work with medicines heavily. Injections, right? And so on. Right. So now let's write a test code. Say account test. Now what is a class? Class models set of similar objects. Now my class has models account objects. This is not a set of account objects. That is why I told you straight away when one of you said class is set of account objects, I told no. Can you see set of account objects in my account class? So if you say class is a set of objects, now you should see set of objects inside this class. I don't see. What I can see is this class has models, the attributes and behaviors of account objects. So that is why I'm very confident about my definition, because I can go and defend with anyone. So if you can't defend, that means your definition is not correct or weak. Simple as that. Right. So let's have main method so that we can start running. Right. Then I told you that account act like a factory. Factory. I told you that account doesn't have objects, but account can create objects on the fly. It's not a store, collection. It's a factory. It's a production line. But it doesn't continuously develop objects. If you want, you can ask it to develop object, create object. So let's create object. Account, say A1 equal new accounts. Now we have created object. If you want, you can create another object. You just give it any name, valid name. Account. Now you can call behaviors of that object. Oh, I have two objects now. Say A1 dot deposit. Say 1000. If I need, I can even access their properties. A1 dot account number. Say 001. A1 dot balance. Say 10,000. So similarly, I can call access attributes and call behaviors of second object as well. Say 5,000. Maybe I want to withdraw also. දැන් මේ කතන්දරේ තමයි ඉස්සරහට ගෙනියන්නේ class diagram sequence diagram කියලා හරි. Say 1000 500. From this I will withdraw 500 as well. So then I will print say a dot acc now. And its balance. A1 dot balance. A2 dot acc now and A2 dot balance. So A1 dot balance must be 10,000 plus 1,000, 11,000, 10,500. This must be 6,000 minus 500, 5,500, because different objects have different memory allocation for instance variable. Object 1 has its own memory location for account number and balance. A1 has its own memory location because those are two different objects. Two different objects. Can see 10,000. Why it is 10,000? 10,000 plus 1,000, 11,000. Right, 11,000. So then I withdraw 500, right? Why there should be a bug. Maybe in my implementation.
The second withdraw method have also A1. It have to be A2.
This is A1, deposit withdraw. A2. Yes, that is the issue. Yeah, that is the issue. Right, now it should be okay. That is my bug. Right, so 10,500 because we add 1,000 and withdraw 500. Here we add 5,000 to 5,000, 6,000, then withdraw 500 because then 5,500. You can see that each object has its own balance because those are instance variables. Those are instance variables. And our instance method refer to its own instance variable. Then what about accessing class method? For example, you don't need to create object. You can just say account dot set interest rate, say 0.1 F was float. So there you don't need instance of, if you want, you can use instance, but that is not a good thing to do. So this is the advantage of making class method, static method, because you don't need an instance to call that. Because you are not setting, and it's bad to create object also, right? Because you are setting a general thing. If you are setting a general thing, just use the class name. So don't set general things by using an instance. That is not a good thing to do, right? Bad habit, bad practice. Okay. Now, if you want, you can create another method like add interest, another class method. Sorry, instance method. Say add interest. So there you don't need any parameter because this is something internal thing, right? So then balance equal or balance plus equal balance into interest rate. Remember, this is instance method. Why? You are referring to balance, but instance method can refer to static method, static variables. But you can't make it static because you are referring to instance variable. So everything has a solid logic. That is why I really love formal science. Formal science, you understand 100%. Maths, computer science. Okay. Say this is, let's follow conventions. So let's call add interest for both now, because we have set the interest rate also. A1 dot add interest. A2 dot add interest. Now we can print both balances. So you must have 10% interest added for both independent. Right. So this is 10% added to 10,500. This is 10% added to 5,500. Because both having the same interest rate. Right. So now you must have very good understanding about what is class, what is object, what is attribute behavior, instance method, instance variable, class variable, instance method, class method. Okay. Right. So next class, we are going to look at more about implementation of association, message passing, then inheritance, polymorphism. So then your topic 1 is pretty much over. But I'm taking more time for the topic 1 because I can do the topic 2, 3, 4 even, right? Just half an hour, 1 hour, I can now finish class diagrams. Right. Right. So today I'm not going to do structure. Sorry, I'm not going to do the data structures and algorithm because I wanted to come to a sort of a milestone that is doing some coding in the object oriented. And when we do the data structures and algorithm, you will find that every data structure is a class. Say stack data structure, queue data structure, linked list, node is object. So then you must know, for example, if you take linked list. So node is object, it has 2 instance variables. One is your data, other one is another node object, recursive association. So how do you understand recursive association if you don't know what is association, right? So today we discuss about association. So that is why I want to delay that until we discuss about the association, then we move on to linked lists and so on. Right? Linked lists, graphs, binary trees, binary heaps, then algorithms like searching algorithms, sorting algorithms, serious stuff. But those are very easy if you know these concepts, right? If you know these concepts. That is why we take object-oriented SAD to the front, okay? Right, we stop at this point, right? Thank you. Next class, we will finish this discussion and move on to the data structures. Maybe we can do 3 topics in the next class because we can take small sessions. Like maybe we can start communication skills as well. Right. We stop at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.